please.
Do me a favor, Bert.
Sure.
Before I start with these people, would you take a look at our book and look up a 1998 Lincoln Town Car?
Sure.
Okay, so this is what I gather from this ridiculousness. You bought a car from the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
The purchase price of the car was $1,500.
Yes, ma'am.
You gave him $700.
I gave him 43 hours labor at $11 an hour.
Shh. You gave him money.
Yes, ma'am.
How much money?
$300 cash.
And then you bartered for some.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did he barter for?
$445.
$445. So that's $745 so far that you gave him towards the $1,500 purchase price.
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew him from before.
Yes, ma'am.
And you made this deal 7 or 8 months ago. On what date?
I don't remember the exact date, ma'am.
Month.
June 10th.
Now, the deal became a little more complicated because the car that he sold you, he had already sold to his nephew.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that there's only one other person in the room who's not a party. That would be the nephew.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had already sold the car to the nephew for how much?
$1,500.
Nephew.
Yes, ma'am.
How much money did you pay your uncle for the car?
$1,098.
Okay, sit. And you were supposed to pay him out the rest, but then you went to jail and it all got screwed up. Anyway, so far, I want to get this straight. You've got $1,098 from your nephew and $745 from the plaintiff.
Yes,
because in June of last year, you said to the plaintiff, I'll sell you this 1998 Lincoln Town Car because my nephew went to jail and he hasn't finished paying for it, but you have to go repossess it.
Yes, ma'am.
No.
So you went and got the car.
Yes, ma'am.
You still have the car.
Yeah, I do currently, yes.
By the way, who holds the title to the car?
I do.
So it's your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Then he sort of found out that he really shouldn't have taken it from his nephew. He says, you didn't finish paying for the car, which you agree you did not finish
Yes,
paying
ma'am,
for
I
the
did
car.
not.
And we're now 9 months later that you've been driving the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? 9 months. For which you have paid, so far, $745, plus you made one other payment.
Yes, ma'am.
When?
December.
You gave him $25.
Yeah, I got they're right there. He sent me a new receipt.
You gave him $25. So $745 plus 25 is $770.
Yes, ma'am.
So now you have $1,098 from nephew, $770 from him.
Yes.
In total, $1,868 is what you have so far for this car.
Yes, ma'am.
Plus, you still have the title for the car. Am I getting it right? You got so far...
There's some missing parts.
You've got so far... No, the simple story, and I'm a very simple girl. The simple story is you have a car that you sold to your nephew for $1,500. You also sold it to the plaintiff for $1,500. But you collected from the two of them $1,868, which is $368 more than you would have gotten from either one of them if it was a clean sale. So far, are we on the same page?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Now, so let me deal with your counterclaim, which a counterclaim, as my grandmother would say, never counterclaim he's got. A counterclaim for $5,000. He's got a counterclaim, Mr. Martin, for $5,000, money owed for car damage, lost wages, travel expenses, and the return of the car. Are you out of your mind?
No, ma'am.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you why you're out of your mind. Could you tell me what the Kelley Blue Book is for this 20-year-old car?
$825.
$825. So, sir, you are the only person who is now seeking $7,000 for an $800 car. Do you understand how stupid that sounds?
Yes, my countersuit was based on his suit against me saying the car is valued at $2,200.
Car is worth $800, and your countersuit was based on his lawsuit. So let me explain this to you, sir. You're not getting a penny. You've already got $1,868 from these two people in the what is you know, a little Ponzi scheme. You sell the car to one, then you can go repossess it. You sell it to somebody else, go repossess it from him. You did try to take the car back from him, didn't you?
Well,
That's either a yes or a
ma'am.
no. Go get it, I have it. Now, you, on the other hand, didn't finish paying for the car.
No, ma'am.
So you want to explain to me how you owe him? I mean, that was your deal. That was your contract with him,
Yes, ma'am.
$1,500, which you didn't pay.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's still a balance due. Let me do this on this new calculator that they put here, because believe it or not, somebody stole the calculator off my desk. So now I have to learn to work a whole new calculator, which is not easy for me. So I'm putting it on. $1,500, here's the minus sign, $770 equals $730. So you still owe him $730?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Well, then what are you suing him for $5,000 for?
Because in December 18th, I found out a couple days before from Cater's dad that he actually had gotten a title from Bobby and wanted the car picked up. Cater didn't.
Bottom line is, he paid more for the car than you did.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that. And when he came to my house...
Just a second. So, did your uncle give you back the money?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
The car dealership won't give me my money back if they
I'm not
recall
talking-
my car.
Now, listen to me. He's your nephew. You sold it to him. Let me ask you this question, sir. You sold the car for $1,500. $1,500 is all you're entitled to for the car. But you have to return your nephew's money. If I say to the plaintiff, not only am I not giving you $5,000, but you have to give him the remainder of what you owe him, and I'm going to have him sign the title over to you, so then you have the title and the car. That's what you bargained for. Then he's going to sue you, and I'm going to give him money. Do you understand?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Listen, do you understand?
I do.
Well, if you don't understand, sir, I'm going to make it very simple for you. Take out the title.
The original
Take
deal,
out the title. I'm
the
going to make it
original
simple
deal
for you.
on the car,
I'm going to make it simple for you. In whose name is the title?
Cater Martin.
Get up. Sign the title over to the plaintiff.
Thank you, pen.
Now, sir, you are out $1,098 that I think you ought to get by suing your uncle. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Are you going to do that?
No.
Why?
Because I think my uncle was in the right for what he did.
No, he's not in the right anymore.
Well, I'm the owner on the title. Since he is the lien holder, he has the right. Since he did not
listen to me. He's going to pay him. Listen to me. He's going to pay him. Sign it. Is the defendant a lien holder, Bird, on that title?
Robert Sam Martin.
Yes.
Yep.
By you?
Yes.
Great. Fabulous. Now, here is the title to your car. On your counterclaim, instead of dismissing the entire counterclaim, which I would ordinarily do, he owes you $730. I'm awarding you $730, which means that you are now double whole. You have the $1,500 from the plaintiff that he agreed to pay you for the car. Your nephew, if he's smart, is going to sue you if you don't give him the $1,098 for the car, because, in effect, you got paid for this car twice.
Former friend Robert Martin broke their agreement regarding a car deal. Robert is countersuing for the return of the car, repair costs, lost wages, and travel expenses.
Now, he bought a car, which he no longer wants. I don't care.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't care if it blew up. I don't care if it stopped running.
Still runs the drive.
It still runs fine, and you should have paid for the car. No excuses. It's
I had
done.
some income tax to pay it, though.
I don't care.
That was the deal.
Listen to me. That's not his problem.
Nope.
If you bought a car from Buick or Chrysler or Ford, and you said, you know what, my income tax return wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be, so I can't pay you for the car, they would take your car.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I want you to think of him that way. Now, file a lawsuit. I'd be delighted to hear it. Got your car.
Yep.
It's yours. Title, register it, and you got your money.
I don't see how he gets to get the car whenever he didn't fulfill his contract on the payments. And like, if I went to a car dealership and
Just
I
a
bought a
second.
car,
That's why you're in court. Listen to me.
yeah.
Listen.
But if in the car dealer's eyes,
Ears. That's why we're in court, to try to resolve this issue. and I've just resolved it. He's had the car for 9 months. He should have paid for it.
And he stole the car from
Just
my
as
girlfriend.
he should have paid for it. Now he paid for it. That has nothing to do with you. Your lawsuit is against your uncle. Your uncle told him to repossess the car from you.
He stole
Do
the
you
car from my
understand?
girlfriend.
Do you understand what? Do you understand that your uncle told him that you hadn't made payments to go and get the car, and he would sell it to him? I just want you to say I understand that. That's
I
what
understand.
happened. That's all I
same
care
concept. Me going December 25th with the laws to get the car, and the laws told me straight up I could not take the car from him unless I went down and got the title put in my name, which I was going to do that Monday, which they texted me that Monday and said that there was filing a lawsuit on us, so there was no point in me going down and having the title, him taken off the lien holder
Listen
and my
to me.
name put on the title, because I could have went and took the car.
Shh, I want you. It has nothing to do with you.
How not? I'm on the title. I'm the owner of the
Not
car.
anymore. Not anymore.
Get it.
Your uncle sold it to him. That's all. We're done here. Goodbye.
As I excuse, you may step out.
If you don't make the payments, you get the car repoed.
Thing was, I wasn't supposed to pay the car off till next month.
He went and stole the car from my ex-girlfriend.
I didn't steal the car. She gave me the key.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Stower versus Green. Step forward.
Amanda Stower is suing her former roommate, Kelly Green, for unpaid rent, utility bills, and property damage.
All right, Ms. Stower, you and the defendant were roommates for a while. You signed a lease on an apartment, and 6 months into the one-year lease, Ms. Green moved out. That one-year lease is over now, and you want her to be responsible for her share of the 6 months' rent that she didn't pay. That's what your case is about.
It was actually, she skipped out on 8 months of the
Well, you say
lease.
she skipped out. So you waited 8 months, and you lived in the apartment, I assume alone.
Yes, ma'am.
For 8 months. And now that the lease is over, you're suing her.
It's not over yet.
When will it be over?
The last day of the lease will be the 21st of July.
Okay, almost over.
Yes, ma'am.
And the rent on this apartment was how much?
I believe $1,380.
And how large is the apartment?
It's a 3-bedroom apartment, ma'am.
And you signed the lease when?
December 11th of 2014 is the actual date.
So that
And
you
then-
also signed a renewal,
We signed a lease extension, yes,
a
ma'am.
lease extension.
Yes,
When did
ma'am.
you sign the lease extension?
July 30th of 2015.
So everything was fine for the year.
Yes, ma'am.
And things at some point were not fine.
Yes, ma'am.
When did they become not fine, Miss Green?
Right after I re-signed the lease. Everything just went downhill. She was just dating random people.
Just listen.
Sorry.
You weren't getting along.
No, not at all.
Did you talk to Miss Stower about it?
No.
Didn't discuss it with her?
I discussed things that were ruined of mine, but I was to the point that I would just stay in my room and go to work, come home, stay in my room.
Okay.
Says her former roommate, Kelly Green, owes for rent, bills, and property damage. Kelly is countersuing for broken glasses and harassment.
Now, did you discuss moving out?
I told her 30 days before I was going to move out. I gave her a 30-day notice.
Well, she's not the landlord.
Right.
You both signed the lease.
Correct.
So you told her 30 days in advance. And what did she say to you about you moving out?
She said, okay, I have a text. And I told her I have a text message
I'd
printed
like
out.
to see it.
I have.
Yep, right there.
Now, if this is a 3-bedroom house, who lived there?
Her daughter and me and her.
So what was your share of the rent?
500 plus utilities. Half of the utilities.
And her daughter had the room.
Yes.
And you had a room.
Yes.
And she had a room.
Yes.
And you paid $500, which is certainly more than a third of the rent, plus half the utilities. How old is your daughter?
She's 11, ma'am.
And you opted to stay in the house and not rent the third room after she moved out.
After the experience of...
No.
No, ma'am. I did not.
And when the lease is up, have you asked for an extension of the lease?
No, ma'am.
Where are you going?
I'm going to put all my stuff in storage, and I'm moving in with a friend of mine.
With whom?
One of my girlfriends from the Navy. She's a real close friend of mine.
Okay. It's clear from these texts back and forth that you were not unhappy that she was leaving, and that the $75 fee that she was going to pay the office to get off the lease, if there in fact was still a lease, you didn't have a problem with at all.
I have.
I'd like to see what you have.
I said we extended our lease until July, and she said yes. I told you I was going to sign that, but I wasn't sure if I was going to stay.
That's exactly what I have. I have those texts. And it appears from a reading of these texts that there was a meeting of the minds with regard to her signing off the lease. What I don't understand, actually, is why you and your daughter lived there comfortably for the last 8 months when clearly you weren't getting along with her, and you waited until the end of that time to sue her. Do you have all the ads that you placed with realtors to rent the other room?
I never put another ad up because after the experience that I had with her having marijuana in the apartment, and I have text messages.
Just a second. So that you decided not to have another roommate?
Yes, ma'am, after.
She doesn't owe you any money. Do I have a counterclaim here?
Yes.
I read your counterclaim. She says you agreed as you were not getting along and has a stupid counterclaim. I still think it's a stupid counterclaim, so you have 30 seconds to tell me about it. You have 30 seconds to tell me about it.
I just want my glasses fixed. They're really expensive, and I asked her for it. I don't have the text message of what I asked her. I asked her to replace it, and she blamed me because I left my door open. But the reason that I left my room door open is because my room was really hot in the winter.
You know, I don't care.
And her dog just went in my room. She didn't kennel her dog
I
up.
actually don't care. Okay, first of all, from reading these texts, it is my view that you acquiesced in her moving out of the house for no other reason than you were having a miserable experience and you didn't want your daughter involved in that miserable experience. So you were just as happy for her to leave. You also have a responsibility under these circumstances to try to lessen your damages. You said, I didn't place an ad for the other room. It's a 3-bedroom house because I didn't want another roommate. Well, so first you sort of acquiesced to her leaving and then wait until the end of the lease and sue her for the rent. Maybe if you told her you were going to sue her for the rent, she wouldn't have moved and she would have stayed and then you would have had to move.
I did tell her that I was going to sue her for the rent, and she told me that she was going to sue me.
Show me where you told her and when you told her you were going to sue her for the rent.
On November 19th, as she was moving out.
Show me.
It was a verbal.
Okay. Your case is dismissed. So's your counterclaim. We're done.
Excuse me, step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'm glad. I don't have to pay her anything. She doesn't deserve it.
I didn't kick her out. She left on her own free will.
She's cheated the government, and
she had marijuana in the apartment around my daughter.
But she dated cops, and she never called the cops on me for having marijuana, so.
I just told her that I would not tolerate marijuana in my house around my child.
I'm over it. I don't even care about my glasses. Yes.
She threatened to call CPS on me for neglect for my daughter.
Definitely don't want to live with someone that...
Which she's not neglected in any...
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of O'Connor versus Himmel. Step forward.
Anush O'Connor is suing antique store owner Andrew Himmel for the value of furniture he was selling on consignment.
Mr. Himmel, you run a consignment antique shop, consignment/antique shop?
I own an antique shop that takes select consignments.
And Miss O'Connor brought in or you picked up?
Picked up.
You picked up furniture?
She brought actually both.
Tell me what you picked up and when.
It was sometime last summer.
Month?
June.
June of 2015. You picked up what?
Picked up a dining room set, a bookcase, I think. I don't remember exactly all the pieces that they...
Don't you keep a list?
Well, it's a list of all.
All right, well, I want you to go over the list and tell me the big pieces that you picked up.
The dining room set.
Bookcase?
A bookcase, a lowboy chest. There was a vanity bench that she had added in, possibly a leather office chair, and probably a 3-drawer mahogany chest, too.
Those are the things you picked up?
Yeah, I think so.
And the other things were light enough for her to bring in herself?
Oh, she and her husband brought them in.
And that was all in June of 2015? Yeah. Did you give her a receipt for all the things?
Yeah, she has the exact same.
I'd like to see a copy of the receipt that you gave her.
This is the original.
Okay. At some time after you picked up the dining room, the bookcase, the lowboy, the chest, the vanity chair, the 3-drawer chest, and the office chair, Miss O'Connor found in her home table pads for the dining room table. Do you recall when that was?
No. I do recall it being late fall, early winter.
Do you remember when you brought in the pads?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
What was the date?
It was mid-August.
Of 2015?
2015, correct.
Now, interestingly, Mr. Himmel, Miss O'Connor says in her complaint that when she came in to bring the pads, because she said if somebody wanted to buy the dining room table, she would have no use for the pads, she didn't see her furniture. Where was her furniture?
Antique store owner Andrew Himmel defrauded her regarding the consignment sale of her furniture.
Okay, she said she didn't see any of her furniture.
I stretched across 3.5 floors of the building.
She says she didn't see any of her furniture because if she came in and she was on the first floor and didn't see any of her furniture, she doesn't look like a fool. She would go to the second floor if there was a second floor. And if she didn't see any on the second floor, she might go to the third floor.
Customers can't go on any but 1 and 2. The 3.5.
Just a second. So, Mr. Himmel, I'm going to love doing this to you. You understand that? You got it. You got it. So customers can't go on the third floor. So anything that you had going on the third floor, customers wouldn't see. The reason I'm asking these questions, for those of you out there who don't know the answer, Mr. Himmel has a very interesting thing here in his contract. He says anything that's not sold in 6 months becomes my property.
Oh, my God.
No.
That's what it says here.
May I qualify that?
No, it's not qualified in here. It's not qualified in here. It says all items remaining after 6 months consignment contract expires becomes the property of Antique Roadhouse. That's not qualified.
That's standard procedure.
Just a second. Well, it's maybe standard procedure if you don't secrete the property. If you secrete the property, that means hide it. If you hide the property so that nobody can buy it, then clearly it's not going to sell in 6 months, and all of a sudden you get all this property.
That's if I was dishonest, and I am not.
Well, she says she brought in the pads for the dining room table in August.
And I don't believe it was that.
Well, I don't care what you believe, since she remembers that she came in with the pads and said, my furniture's not here. Where's my stuff? And Mr. Himmel said,
sold, and you should receive a check in a few weeks. I said, okay, great.
That would be logical. If you don't see it and you say, where's my dining room? You don't say it's on the third floor and nobody can see it. So I believe her, since you acknowledged she brought in the pads and didn't see the dining room table. Did you pay her any money for all this stuff, sir? No. Then?
Because none of it sold.
I don't believe you.
Because some of it's still on the website now.
Then why don't you return it to her?
Because the contract says if it's not sold by the end of 6 months, she could take it back at any moment she wanted to.
You told her in August it was sold.
No, she says I told her that.
Do you have anything to show me that indicates that you had this discussion with him?
I have emails from Andy Himmel saying that he was sick and not feeling well and didn't have the strength to go through the paperwork and so forth.
May I see it?
Yes. This is one email, and then this is the final email from him. Your Honor, I also have emails from other clients of his that he's done this to. Okay.
I'm going to object to that, Your Honor. I don't know who wrote these.
Just be quiet.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This to you on Monday, February 8th. Hello, Andrew. I'm grateful for this communication. Thank you, but very saddened to hear of your health issues. My heart goes out to you, my friend.
I'd rather
please let me know.
Publicized.
Please let me know which items of mine have sold. Maybe if you could put together a list for me, as it looked like most of the mahogany pieces sold right away. When I came to the shop in early August to bring you the pads to the dining room table and walked around the shop, I did not see the dining room table, lowboy, bachelor's 3, drawer chest, glass door bookcase, and leather office chair. You replied, thank you for your kind words and prayers. If you haven't already told your parents about my health issues, please don't. Their plate is full enough. So you acknowledge that in August that she brought you the pads. It was August that she didn't see any of her furniture.
I didn't acknowledge it. I just said acknowledge that.
No, just a minute. If that was, thank you for your kind words and prayers, but you never came here in August. It was in late fall or early winter, although you wrote this in the beginning of winter.
I don't remember when she came in there. I do remember what I said to her was that the pads would be worthless to anybody but
judgment for the plaintiff amount to $15.90. I would suggest that nobody else make the same mistake you did. We're done.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
thrilled. Justice has been served.
We have to put something like this every store does. Otherwise, no one takes their stuff back. They keep telling you to sell it, sell it.
This is his M.O.
I would never have taken it had I not known her and known her parents.
He's a bully and a scam artist.
I would have turned it down because of the condition of it.
So I came here today not only for myself, but for all those good people that he had.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cup, Weeks versus Vaisfeld. Step forward.
24-year-old Kylie Cupp and her father, Kevin Weeks, are suing Kylie's ex-boyfriend, Ilya Vaisfeld, for the negligent handling of her personal belongings.
Mr. Vaisfeld, you and the plaintiff have a 5-year-old child together, is that right?
A 6-year-old child.
And you have physical custody of him, is that right?
Yes.
For how long have you had physical custody?
Like a year now, a year and a half.
Is that court-ordered custody?
Yeah, I do have a paperwork from the court that grants me custody.
Okay, did you have a trial?
There was supposed to be one, but nobody ever showed up to it. So
She
that's why I
didn't show
got
up.
default custody, yes.
Okay, and actually you're really not involved in this case. You can sit down. You're her father, right?
Yes.
You can sit down. Now, the plaintiff visits with the child?
Yes.
How often?
Like every day, pretty much.
Every day?
Yeah, she comes and sees him every day, pretty much.
And where does she live?
She lives with her mom.
Just her mother?
Yeah.
Not her father?
No, as far as I know.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and this is what I gather from the story.
Judge says ex-boyfriend Ilya Vaisfeld disposed of her father's vintage Fender guitar. Ilya's countersuing for stolen money.
Now, she comes over regularly and evidently keeps some stuff in your apartment. Like what?
Like all my clothes, like...
Well, then if you keep all your clothes there, then you live there.
I was living there.
Were you living there on December 12th?
Yes.
No, that's incorrect, Your Honor. She was not living there at that point anymore. Because my mom told her she had to leave and there were other issues involved and she wasn't already there for like a couple of weeks at that point.
So you live with your mother?
Yeah, I live with my mom, yes. My mom's house. My mom was the one who wanted her to get her stuff out of the house.
So you live with your mother, and your mother is home during the day?
No, at work. She works during the day.
Who else lives in the house other than you and your mother?
My dad and my sister.
All right. But on the 12th of December, she wasn't living there.
She wasn't living there.
She wasn't living there because your mother had put her out?
To be honest, I don't quite remember if it's my mother had issues with her, but I think she might have left on her own accord. I don't remember. You would have to ask Ms. Cupp.
When did you get legal custody of your son?
Yeah,
You're looking at him, Ms. Cupp, as if he's not telling me the truth.
Because it's not true.
It
and you've
is.
had detectives
Remember
tell
when
you that that's not true.
It's
That paper
true.
is
When
not
you went
real.
to court, remember the time I filed in court and you were supposed to show up.
I'm not gonna
You didn't
argue
show
about
up and you went to jail.
Shh.
So,
Do you have an order of custody?
I do at home. I did not bring it with me. I didn't think I would need
Okay.
it.
I just wanted to make sure that you had that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. According to you, on December 12th, Ms. Cupp came over, and the two of you agreed that you were going to bathe your son, and she was going to go out to get some groceries. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you gave her some money to go out and buy groceries.
Correct.
How much money did you give her?
200.
Gave her 200 in cash. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Yes. And she went out and didn't come back.
Right, correct.
So that you put all of her stuff that was there out on the porch.
Correct. And I told her, I texted her too. I told her.
You put her stuff out on the porch. That's what you're here for. You say you put all your stuff out on the porch, or he sold it, or he did something else with it. But among the other things that he put out on the porch, he put on the porch a guitar that your father had given you. That's why your father is here, to tell me something about the guitar. And that you want him to pay you $2,100 for negligent handling of personal property. That's what the case is about. And you want your $200 back for the groceries.
Correct.
Hey, what a case.
Ex-boyfriend Ilya Vaisfeld disposed of her father's vintage Fender guitar. Ilya's countersuing for stolen money.
When you left the house on the 12th of December, had he given you any money for groceries?
He gave me $20.
Okay, so he gave you $20 for
Yeah.
groceries. That sounds more accurate. Okay. And when he gave you the $20 for groceries, what time was that on December 12th?
It was late. It was like 9. I don't think it was the 12th, though. I think it was the 16th or something like that. The police report says the 16th.
Well, was it the 12th or the 16th?
It was the 16th, which is why I know that I was still staying there on the 12th.
Okay. So he gave you $20 to go out to get groceries. So what did you do?
I went to my mom's house.
Why?
Because my mom was having problems, and I went to my mom's house, and it was more important to me than getting $20 worth of groceries.
With the only
Well,
money
what'd you,
I had.
shh. So what'd you take? Hey, Stop it. You two of you are idiots, and I'm really going to just say goodbye to you. Just too bad you made a child who was probably cared for by a lot of other people, clearly not you. I don't understand then why you took the $20. If you were going to your mother's house, then what did you take the $20 for the groceries for?
Well, I planned to do it, and I even offered to give it back to him.
No, what do you mean you planned to do it? When you left, you said your mom was having problems, and that was more important to you. So my question to you is, why did you take the money in the first place?
Because I did intend to go and get groceries, but
what?
Ended up not doing it. My mom was having problems with her boyfriend, and that, to me, I wanted to go and see if my mom was okay and everything was going fine, instead of doing that.
Instead of staying with your child and getting groceries for your child, you wanted to go someplace else.
Yeah, well, not really, but okay.
Those were your choices. Either you were coming back with groceries for your 6-year-old child, or you were going to deal with your mom and her boyfriend, who probably, if you were going, you probably thought he was abusive. You thought that that was a more responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
I just want to know.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing that you don't have custody of the 6-year-old, that somebody else does.
I went there later that night to pick up, or maybe it was the next day. But
Don't ask him.
Because I went specifically to pick up the guitar.
Okay, so the thing that you're here for is the guitar. Where is the guitar? Look at me.
I put the guitar along with her other possessions on the patio, which is closed off. You can't see anything from outside. And the next day it was gone. So I just assumed she came by and picked it up. But then, like, maybe 2-3 days later, she did come by to ask for the guitar, and I figured she picked it up. And I didn't know anything about it. At the time, I didn't even know it was Mr. Weeks' guitar, because if I did, I would have never actually been so careless with it, because I do feel bad that he did lose it, because he has nothing to do with this, just in the middle of 2 dumb kids.
What were you doing with the guitar?
Yeah.
He let me have the guitar because I have a guitar, but I don't have it with me, and I wanted to play guitar. I make music, and he let me borrow it. And it was not put outside at all, because when I came to pick it up, it was not in the house immediately. And my son told me, oh, he got rid of it. He sold it.
Maybe.
I did not sell the guitar.
Did you ever give him his $20 back?
I was going to give him his $20 back that day,
I didn't
too.
ask you that. I said, did you ever give him his $20 back?
Not after I found out that he got rid of everything.
Well, that's it. I wouldn't let her borrow anything. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Especially something that you might have felt was valuable.
It was very valuable.
Then I wouldn't let somebody irresponsible borrow my valuable property, because you know what happens? You don't get it back. Because I don't know what these 2 morons were doing. Actually, and neither do you, right?
That's right.
I'm done with both of them. And you. Goodbye.
Step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
About her decision. She basically got a good grasp of the situation.
He's a liar. He's admitted to me, to him.
That me and the co-plaintiff are idiots, and that her dad should have never let her borrow a guitar that was valuable to him.
I lived there. I was gone for 1 day, and I came back, and it was gone.
She had other issues, and, you know, she was in and out with her mom and her other boyfriend. And
that he did it, and
it's just complicated. There was really no room.
Because he steals people's stuff and gets rid of it.
Like I stated, you know, how many people were already living at the house at the time.
He's smirking, he thinks it's funny, but it's not.
Hope we work things out, I mean, as best as we can for his sake, you know.
Well, I hope that he at least learns that he doesn't have.
You may be seated.
Ms. Jones, it is your claim that the defendant, who had been a boyfriend of yours, falsely accused you of vandalizing his car and had you arrested. You want $5,000 for the false arrest and for harassment. Defendant says that you actually did vandalize his car, that the reason he didn't pursue the matter ultimately was because you have a child?
Yes.
Not his child?
No.
And he does know your mother, correct?
Yes.
And that your mother asked him not to pursue it, and he said, as long as I get my money back for fixing the car, and he let it go. He didn't want your child to be left without you, but he said you absolutely vandalized his car. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
So I want you to tell me when she vandalized your car.
It was about the end of October.
Listen to me carefully. This is not going to be easy. Either way, it's not going to be easy. Do we understand each other?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I want you to tell me the date that she vandalized your car.
October 2014.
What time?
About 12:30 in the morning.
Did you call the police immediately?
Yes.
Do you have the police report?
No, I don't.
Why didn't you get it?
Lost files, and it was in the last criminal case that I didn't show up to. That it was dismissed because I didn't.
It was 12:30 in the morning.
Yes.
You called 911?
Yes.
And you made a report that someone vandalized your car?
Yes.
Did you indicate who vandalized your car?
Yes, I did.
And that was on the date that it happened?
Yes.
And on what date were you questioned by the police?
I was questioned November 2nd.
And was the vandalizing on October or November?
October 31st.
Which is when you gave them her name?
Yes.
They came to your house, the police?
Yes.
And they said that you had been named as a suspect in a case of car vandalism?
Yes.
Did they take you into custody?
Yes.
Who was at home at the time?
No one was at my house at that time.
Where was your child?
She was at my mother's.
What was she doing at your mother's?
I believe it was the holiday weekend or something. It was a long weekend. I'm not sure what was going on, but
What kind of car did you drive?
I drive an Audi 2010.
What color?
It's like a bluish grayish color.
And how long had Mr. Bernard been your boyfriend?
2 years.
So he knows your car very well?
Yes.
And you saw her get into the car?
Yes.
And that was on October 31st?
Yes.
Did you see what she did to your car?
No, I didn't.
Had you had any difficulty with her prior to October 31st?
No, yes, I did.
Tell me what?
Just calling my phone a lot, excessively, and a couple months prior to that, we went out, and she knows that I have another girlfriend, but other than that, she just was calling me. And
did she call you on October 31st?
Yes.
What time?
All day and night.
Phone?
A few times I did.
What was the conversation that you had?
Just about past situations and anger built up, things like that.
What kind of vandalism was done to your car?
A brick went through my windshield.
Tell me exactly what you saw her do.
I didn't see her do anything, but I've seen her with all black on running to her car and just...
I'm asking you on that date, not I've seen her. On
Yes.
that date, it's 12:30.
Yes.
Give me the situation.
The situation is that I came downstairs, I went to my kitchen, I was getting something to drink, and I heard a loud noise. And I looked out the window, and I seen her running away with all black. I mean, I'm pretty sure it looked like her, but it was dark outside, and I seen the car from afar. And I opened the door, and by the time I opened the door to come outside, she was gone.
You saw what car from afar?
I saw a bluish grayish car drive off.
Did you call her after the vandalism?
Yes.
When did you call her?
Probably 2 minutes later.
Did you get her on the phone?
No, I didn't.
Did you leave a message?
Not a voicemail, I left a text message.
And what did you say?
Disrespectful things about why did you do this in my car, and
Did she ever respond to you?
no.
So she never texted you back and never called you?
She wound up calling me back.
When did she call you back?
Maybe about 20 minutes later.
So 20 minutes after you texted her, she called you back?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what did she say when she called you back?
Just hello, and and then I told her such and such, like, why did you do this to my car? I seen you such and such, and she said I was at home asleep, I didn't do anything, and I was like, you did.
And then the police came to your house?
The police came to my house 2 days
2 days later. And when you were arrested, you were appointed a lawyer, right?
I had to get a lawyer, yes.
You had to get a lawyer. And did Mr. Bernard appear in court at all?
He appeared one time.
And?
From when I was at the police station, the detective asked me, did I do it? I said no. And he said, well, it's $300 worth of damage. And when he got into court, it was $1,200. Then the story changed from he watched somebody scratch his vehicle and bust out the window. So his story...
Ms. Jones, let me explain something to you. Because a case is dismissed ultimately doesn't mean you get to sue somebody. Do you understand?
Yes.
Great. Now, it was clear that sometime at the end of October you were annoyed with him. There's no question in my mind that you were annoyed with him. That'd be a fair statement. I read your complaint and his answer.
We didn't get along.
You didn't get along. And there's no question, after reading complaint and the answer and records, that you had been calling him that day.
Yes,
that also is true,
yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you also were aware on that day that he was seeing somebody else.
I was aware of that prior, yes.
Good, that he was seeing somebody else. So he had no issues with you, you see. It wasn't that he felt you were cheating on him.
He had an issue with me. Okay.
What was his issue?
That I was back with my daughter's father.
When did he have that issue with you?
A month prior.
We're talking about October 31st.
Well, I didn't have an issue with him that day either.
Really? Then what were you calling him for all day?
We communicate all the time.
Okay. Ms. Jones, let me tell you something. Just because he didn't show up the last day that he was supposed to for trial and the case was dismissed doesn't mean you get to sue him for $5 grand. Do you understand? You have to prove to me that what he did by reporting you as the person who he thought vandalized his car was done maliciously, knowing that it was false. Do you understand?
Yes.
And if you can prove to me that what he did was malicious, knowing that it was false, then we got a ball game.
Okay.
Prove it.
Oh, I have him on audio.
Saying?
I don't have nothing to say to them. He wanted me to go to his grandparents' house so he can explain to them that I didn't do it and that he knew who did it.
Just a minute. So that says he knows that you didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. And he wanted to apologize to me and his family, like with me there.
Do you know what she's talking about?
Yes, I do know what she's talking about.
You want to tell me?
Yes, I told her that the second time around, because it happened twice, it was 2 police reports. It happened back-to-back nights.
So the vandalism to your car happened twice?
Yes. It's in all the police reports. That's in the prior case to the criminal case.
You know, I would really love to see the police reports. You're supposed to get that. You know, you're supposed to come not in shorts, right? Not in shorts, but with a police report. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So your car was vandalized 2 nights in a row?
Yes.
Once with a brick through the windshield?
Both nights. It was 2 different bricks.
The same windshield?
Yeah.
It didn't break the first time?
It did break, but it didn't go all the way through. It just shattered the whole windshield.
And then the second night?
The second night, the second brick went through.
Now tell me what she's talking about.
That I called her the second night saying that possibly it wasn't you that came back the second night because I also had a prior situation with another girl I was with, but I didn't see anything but a car drive away the second night.
So the first night you saw somebody that you thought was her.
It was her the first night.
It was her the first night?
Yes.
But it wasn't her the second night?
The second night I'm not sure because I didn't see.
Your Honor, the second night he told the detective the second night that it was me. And he seen my vehicles in too. And then he goes back and says that he finds out.
I absolutely believe him, you know. And I absolutely don't believe you.
Okay.
Okay. I absolutely believe him because there's no axe to grind in this case. He says that his car was vandalized twice. First night he thought it was you, but then it was vandalized again and he didn't see you. I mean, he's being right up front with me.
Yeah, but he deals with a lot of females.
That may be.
Yeah.
I told you, what you have to prove to me is that he viciously, knowing that it was false, accused you of vandalizing his car on night number 1. So far, you're not doing that.
Well, I have him on video, like I said.
You don't have him on video.
Audio, I'm sorry. I have him on audio saying he accused me and it wasn't me and he wanted to take me to his grandparents' house and explain to them what happened.
So he said that had to do with the second night?
That had to do with the first night.
Okay. Is that what it says?
No, I just have a whole audio of us communicating.
Could I have that, Bird?
Sure.
Please. I don't know what you do.
You don't get it, Sherrod. I'm not. What?
I got to apologize to you and my family for having the wrong person and accusing.
No, you need to go there and explain that to them. You need to do that, not me. I don't care what your family think. I don't care at all.
It's not about they think. It's just about what I want to do things.
And if you want to do it and you trying to make things right by me, you will go to your family and you will tell them, yo, she ain't do it. I don't want it.
Like I said, I'm not doing
Okay. Anything else?
Just
Anything else?
The fact that it got dismissed.
Anything else?
No.
It got dismissed. Okay.
Judge Judy continues. Friend Sherrod Bernard had her falsely arrested for vandalizing his car.
She the person that you thought you saw vandalize your car on the first night?
Yes.
Your Honor.
Is she the person that you reported to the police you thought vandalized the car? I want you to tell me why you didn't go to court the second time.
I didn't go to court because me and her have a history, and, you know, I got love for her, and I didn't want her to lose her job because she's a successful woman, you know, and, you know, basically that's it. I didn't want her to lose her job.
How much did it cost you to fix your car?
$1,200.
Who paid for it?
I did.
Did you call her mother at some point, or did her mother call you? Look at me.
I called her mom.
When did you call her mother?
I'm not really too sure. I had to be around that time.
How much after October or November? She's arrested in November.
I might have gave her mom a call the next year, like January, because the case wasn't over till April, I think.
Okay, so you gave her mother a call in maybe January?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Okay, and what did you say to her mother?
I just told her that they tell Veronica I'm not coming to court because I didn't want her to lose her job or nothing like that. Basically, that's it.
Okay. Anything else?
Sworn in, you may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mrs. Smith, this is your former husband. You have one child who is just 13. I assume the person sitting with your son, you are the boy, right, is your new husband.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
This is?
This is Alina, my fiancée.
Okay. And for a period of time, it appears, after the divorce, the two of you shared custody of your only child, and that seemed to work out fine for a while. During that time, according to you, Miss Smith, when your son was not quite 12, he had saved up enough money to purchase a purebred Siberian Husky dog, which, according to you, he took back and forth with him when he went between his father's house and yours. So far, am I getting your story straight?
That's correct.
Then there came a time, sometime this past year, that your son decided he would like to spend all of his time in your home. And his father had the dog, and his father refused to return the dog to your son, and he's had the dog for the last 10 months. Am I correct? 10 months.
You're partially correct, Your Honor.
Has the dog been in your care consistently for the last 10 months?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so what we're differing on is your story, and it is, Mr. Hammond says that you purchased the dog, your funds, and the dog has been with you, you raised the dog.
Your Honor, we both purchased the dog.
Who's both?
Anna and I. She made payments towards the dog the first half, and then she reneged on getting the dog, so I picked up the slack.
Okay, let's start, because that sounds like a story that's interesting and too complex to have made up. So, Mr. Hammond, in what month was the dog purchased, and from whom?
The dog was purchased on July 5th, 2014. We purchased Oreo.
You purchased?
Well, she had already made some payments. I have some receipts.
From whom was the dog purchased?
A breeder. Her name is Sandra.
Is that who the dog was purchased from?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that in your local area?
Yes.
Yes. You reached out to the breeder?
To purchase the dog? No, I did not.
Who did?
Seth.
Your son?
Yes.
And at that time, he was not quite 12?
Not quite.
So your son reached out to the breeder, and?
Me and his father agreed to have Seth show some responsibility by having a garage sale, earning money, mowing my neighbor's lawn, doing chores around the house to earn the money for this dog.
Listen to me. Your son contacted the breeder.
Correct.
Miss Smith, let us do this in a very orderly fashion. Your son reached out to the breeder, and then he must have told you that he reached out to the breeder.
That's correct.
And on July 5th, 2014, how much money do you claim? Look at me, Miss Smith. Look at me. Don't look there. Miss Smith, don't look down. Look at me. On July 5th, 2014, how much money had your son saved, and where had he saved it?
I would honestly say I wasn't prepared for that question. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't care whether you were prepared for the question or not. Let's go back. Now
I believe that my son probably...
So...
On July 5th of 2014.
When you say we, I'm not talking about we. I'm talking about how much money had your son saved for the dog from all these things that you just told me about?
Approximately $500.
From doing things for you?
And my neighbors and garage sales.
A garage sale that was your neighbor's garage sale or yours?
No, he mowed her lawn. He did errands for her. He did things to earn the money.
So, as what you're telling me, that he earned $500 at age 11 from doing these things. I want to understand exactly what you're saying, because you're saying it in front of your son. Do you understand? He knows the truth, right?
Yes.
So, is what you're saying that your son mowed the lawn for neighbors, would get paid, help at a garage sale when he was 11, and what you're telling me is, in front of your son, that he had saved up $500 so that he could purchase a dog?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How much was the dog?
$700.
And where did the other $200 come from?
His father and myself.
How much did you contribute?
I honestly would say that I contributed at least $100.
Okay, now, Mr. Hammond, now let's go back to you. Tell me about the purchase of the dog.
From what I can recall, I have some dates and some receipts here. She had made a couple of payments towards this dog.
Starting on what date?
There was different dates. I have taken my son to this breeder on multiple occasions to give money to this breeder.
Had you already received the dog?
No.
So you were making payments before you received the dog?
Correct, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Stand up. How many times did your dad take you to the breeder?
Around maybe 4 or 5 times.
And was that to make payments and to see the puppy?
Yes.
Seth, around this time when you were paying off the puppy and going to visit the puppy, were you spending as much time with your dad as you were with your mom?
Yes.
And when you went to make payments to the breeder, where would the money come from?
It would come from my bank account.
So you put the money in a bank?
Yes.
And that was all the money that you earned?
Yes.
And how long had you been saving that money?
I would say maybe around a year and a half.
And do you remember how much money you had? It's easy to find out from the bank.
Around $500.
Well, is that because your mother said $500, or was that because you remember it was around $500?
Yeah, I remember it was around $500.
So when you went to make payments on the dog, you would go with your father?
Yes.
But you would go and withdraw the money? Who would withdraw the money?
I would.
Yourself, without an adult?
No, I would have an adult with me. I would either have my mom or my father with me.
Okay. And do you remember, after the $500 was spent, do you remember where the rest of the money came from?
Sometimes it would come from my mom, but she would help me pay for the dog. And whenever I needed something, she would, like, I would work for her or I would work for the neighbor. I would get money from them.
So it's what you're telling me, you would do chores and your mother would give you money?
Yes.
And sometimes for a neighbor?
Yes.
And you told your father that you did this, and he knew why you were saving up the money?
Yes.
Do you remember when you went to live with your mom full-time?
I think it was maybe a few months ago that I...
What do you mean you think it was maybe a few months ago? You seem like an intelligent young man. You're certainly industrious. What do you mean you think it was a few months ago?
It was around a few months ago when I went to go live with my mom for full-time. I was more happier there.
You were happier there?
Yes.
No more. You were happier there. And we're talking about the beginning of the school year.
Yes.
So you were living with your mom full-time at the beginning of the school year.
Yes.
And prior to that, you were going back and forth to your dad's house.
Yes.
When you were with your mom, before you lived there full-time, tell me the dog's name.
Oreo.
Would Oreo come with you when you left your dad with you?
No.
He would stay at your dad's house?
Yeah.
Always stay at your dad's house?
No.
When would he come with you?
He would come with me to my mom's whenever, basically whenever me and my mom agreed that he could come over to my mom's house. So whenever me and my mom agreed to it, that's when Oreo would come.
Okay, so clearly the dog has spent most of his time at your father's house.
Yes.
And how old is the dog now?
He just passed 1.
So what I'm getting from you, Seth, is that for most of the last year, the dog is 1, so that probably the breeder held on to Oreo until he, it's a boy, was about 8 weeks old, 2 months old. So for the last 8 months, with the exception of occasionally when your mom would agree to have the dog at her house, the dog has been with your father in your father's house.
Yes.
And when you would with your mom half the time, the dog was with your father.
Yes.
So now I understand the logistics of it.
Ex-husband Henry Hammond owes for the return of a Siberian Husky purchased by their son.
Okay. Your son saved the money with regard to this dog, purchasing it. He worked, whether he worked for his mother, whether he worked for a neighbor, whatever he did, he worked, he saved his money, and most of that money, with the exception of some that maybe you and his mother kicked in, came from his labor. But clearly, based upon what I'm hearing, his mother did not want a maybe untrained puppy in her house. So it was fine that the dog stayed with you. Occasionally, she would give her son permission to have your son bring the dog to the house.
That never happened, John.
I'm getting that. I understand that. So now we have to make a judgment, because what I'm looking at is a lawsuit. You want $5,000, which is ridiculous because the dog was only $700. So I don't know why you would be ridiculously suing for $5,000.
May I say something, Your Honor, please?
Sure. You want to tell me why you're ridiculously suing $5,000 for a $700 dog? I'm dying to hear that.
I will explain myself. Because during this time of the dog going back and forth to the parents' house, I was training with the dog. Each time the dog was at my house, I had a breeder and the trainer come to my home and train me properly.
Do it again.
To train the dog properly.
Listen to me. Do it again. So that's the reason that you're suing for $5,000?
Well, just the emotional distress.
Well, you know, I'm getting emotionally distressed because I think that putting your son in sort of the middle of this parental argument is ridiculous. But I also think, Mr. Hammond, that if you're going to keep the dog, which I am going to allow you to do, because the dog has been with you on a permanent basis, and clearly your son will bond with another dog and his mother will have an opportunity to retrain herself with a new dog, but you're going to have to pay for that. So, you still have the name of the breeder, Seth?
Yes.
And I think, in all probability, at this point, if you want to be a good soul, you'll understand that the dog has been in one home for a year, really one home for a year. Your mother may have taken him for a couple of lessons, brought him to your house, but other than that, the dog goes to sleep, is used to a routine in your father's house, who paid for part of the dog. It's clear, that's agreed that he paid for part of the dog. But most of the dog came from your bank account. Listen to me, I'm not taking the dog away from you. She's suing for either the return of the dog or money. That's her lawsuit. I'm going to give her money. And if she's a good mother, she'll let her son go and buy a puppy. Now you're living full-time with your mom and her husband. You will have a puppy that's yours, that hasn't been snatched away from the only home that it really knows. And you will have the money that you earned, which is what your mother is suing for, right?
Yes.
Great. And I'm even going to throw in a little money extra because I don't think that you could sometimes get a husky for $700. So I'm going to award you $1,000 so that you can find a puppy. You were industrious enough to save money. I think that an 11-year-old has to be given a certain amount of credit for saving something, and he did save some money.
Can
you
I
don't
clear
deny
something
that.
up, Your Honor?
Yeah.
He doesn't work for me when I ask him to work.
Mr. Hammond, that's the way his mother chooses to parent. That if you do the dishes, I'll give you $5. Some people will say, if you don't do the dishes, I'll give you a beating. Or if you don't mow the lawn, you'll go to your room. It's a different way of parenting. If you say to him, listen, I want you to help whatever her name is with the dishes, and he says, if you give me $5, you know, my response would be, you're in my house, I own the air you breathe. If I tell you to help with the dishes, you help with the dishes. It's a problem when you have an only child, you have two different ways of parenting, one where the rules seem to be perfectly reasonable but different, and one where they are perhaps more indulgent. And if I were a 12-year-old, I would prefer to live in a place where I got $5 for doing what my mother told me to do. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's better parenting. You understand that, don't you? I just want you to understand that, because it appears to me that you have a nice father. Now, teenagers have their own set of rules in their head, and sometimes it's much more comfortable to live with a parent who has a more relaxed system of rules or reward and punishment. I can't do anything about that. All I can do is make this award judgment.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Spivey. Step forward.
Nikkiisode Johnson is suing the father of her children, Dwayne Spivey, for breaching their agreement regarding a business investment and for lost wages.
Mr. Spivey, I'm going to start with you because I really think that when it comes right down to it, you're going to be able to provide to me the information that I need to decide this case.
Yes, Your Honor.
You and Miss Johnson have two daughters. I assume that these are your two daughters.
Correct.
Are they your only two children?
No, Your Honor.
How many children do you have?
4 altogether.
Older or younger?
They're younger than the 2 that's on the side, Your Honor.
How much younger?
My son, he just turned 11, the 26th of this month, and my daughter, she's 4, she'll be 5 on December 25th.
Do you live with them?
Yes, I do.
There came a time when Miss Johnson came to you about a proposal involving your two daughters.
Correct.
Tell me what the proposal was.
Judge Judy Nikkiisode Johnson says the father of her children, Dwayne Spivey, reneged on their business agreement. Dwayne claims they never had an agreement.
Now, tell me what the proposal was.
All right. In May, she actually went to school. She was going to school for business. After she completed the business, she came approached me. She called me, and she was like, I got an idea. I want to start a taxi company. So I said, okay, give me what's going on. Tell me what's on your mind. So she broke it down to me. She said,
tell me what she said.
She said it was a company that she had that wanted to invest in her. So I said, what do you need? She said, I need $1,000 plus I need somebody else to co-sign for me with a car because I don't make that much money.
So I said, okay, now what's your plan? She said, well, I need you.
So what she was saying was she needed $1,000 from you.
Yes, that's correct.
And for you to co-sign for her for a car for this taxi company.
Yes, that's correct.
And your daughters were going to be involved with the taxi company.
Well, the situation with my daughters, right? My daughters actually was calling me, telling me that their mom was basically trying to force them to come into the company. I called her up, and I'm like, listen, you cannot force them to come into a company, you know, because I said they got to live their life. They got to make their decisions in life.
What do the girls do?
They go to school, Your Honor.
High school, college?
High school. One's about to graduate, and one's is on the verge of graduating.
How old are the girls?
19 and 18.
And what do they want to do?
They didn't have it made up their mind yet. They want to go to college, basically. And when my youngest one called me, which is Tiana, she called me. She's the first one that called me. She's like, yeah, my mom, she's trying to basically force me into this taxi company. So I actually called her up, and I'm like, listen, you cannot force them to do anything. I said, you got to make them make their own career decisions. You know, I said, didn't you live your life? You got to let them live their life.
And when did you have that conversation with her? Was that before or after you agreed to invest, for want of a better term, the $1,000?
Actually, I did not actually agree, so I can't say I agreed for that. I said, basically, let me hear your ideas for that. But
she told you the idea?
Yes.
And
it was
then
a couple
what did you
months
say?
after that.
Well, a couple of months after that, did you ultimately agree to give her the $1,000?
No, I didn't. Because the fact of, I was like, let me see your business plan. She didn't have a business plan. And then I said, what type of research did you do? She ain't do no research on it. You know, so it's where am I at in this situation? You know, you don't got none of this credentials to show me that this is something you really want to go into.
And what was the $1,000 supposed to be for?
It's supposed to be a down payment on the car with me co-signing for the car.
Okay, so it was for a car?
Yes.
Not a taxi cab, just a regular car?
Yes, you can actually use a regular car for
transportation?
Yes. That's correct.
Okay, that's what the case is about. Ms. Johnson, you're suing him for the $1,000. Actually, you're suing for a lot more, which is ridiculous, because he didn't give you the $1,000, which you needed for a down payment on the car, and because he didn't give you the down payment, you think that you're entitled to the lost wages that you would have had he given you the down payment on the car, and you would have been able to work. Well, that's ridiculous.
Judge Judy, the father of her children, Dwayne Spivey, reneged on their business agreement. Dwayne claims they never had an agreement.
Now, Ms. Johnson, what part of Mr. Spivey's story is inaccurate?
The part about him saying that he wouldn't invest the money, because I told him the job pays $35 an hour. I have at least 3 different companies that I'm supposed to work for. And I told him that he would get his money back immediately, because it's an immediate investment.
And?
And I also told him that I also have my own company, so as having my own company...
You mean independent of this company?
Independent.
What kind of company do you have?
Transportation company. It's a taxi company, basically, and I can do all kinds of taxis.
Well, what did you need another car for?
I don't have the actual car. That's the problem. The problem is that I don't actually have a car.
Well, you said you're in the transportation business.
I just got in November of 2014.
Well, what do you do in that business?
Right now, I'm trying to get started with a car.
So you're not in the business?
Not necessarily,
How do you support yourself?
I'm on SSI, SSD. I get those payments.
How long have you been on SSI?
2005.
Anything else you want to tell me?
I went to college. I have an associate's degree in business. I'm going back for finance, and also I'm going to do like an umbrella of transportation. I'm going to do some back-to-school things. I'm going to do some medical transport once I get this all up and running. But the problem is that...
All you have to do, Miss Johnson, is what you want to do, it sounds to me, is work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, if you're on SSI, which means that you're disabled, so evidently you don't consider yourself disabled enough that you can't work, so you want to start a business, correct?
Yes, I do.
Well, and if you want to start a business, and if you have to work, the work will give you the credit history in order to be able to get a car, and if you work, you save money, you save $1,000, and you start a business. That's not his fault.
Yeah, but I also invested money in him when he was in prison. And he was in prison for almost 10 years, and I invested a lot of time and money into him. So I just hope that he would help me.
But that's not a lawsuit, Miss Johnson. That's not a lawsuit.
But he told me he would help me.
I know. He changed his mind. because that's what it's all about. You say it pretty much in your answer. You say she didn't have a business plan. She didn't have a business plan that satisfied me, and so I changed my mind. To work, get credit.
But I'm still taking care of them.
They don't look like they need taken care of, and if you're disabled, they should be taking care of you, not you taking care of them. One is 18 years old, one is 19 years old. How old are you?
38.
38. Well, you were their age when you had them.
Yeah.
Nobody was taking care of you.
No.
So you took care of me. They look, is there anything wrong with you?
No.
Anything wrong with you?
No.
Great. They can take care of themselves. Ms. Johnson, you don't have the case. Your case is dismissed. That's all. Thank you.
One judge, please, when you step out versus McNeil. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Burke, these are your two dogs. Is that right?
That's correct.
And according to your complaint, Mr. McNeil, who was an old friend of yours, agreed to temporarily take care of the dogs. He was selling a house, and you didn't want the dogs in the house while realtors were showing it. Mr. McNeil rented a car, came down, picked them up. While he was at your house, there was some discussion about a truck that you own, an SUV. According to you, Mr. McNeil agreed to buy it. Your complaint is that he refuses to return your dogs and that he did not pay for the SUV, which caused you to repossess it. But you're still suing him for the cost of the SUV. You can certainly have your dogs back. I assume that's why you brought them here.
Yes, ma'am.
And he is counterclaiming. He says that as long as you are no longer friends, and I assume you are no longer friends, he wants you to reimburse him for the expenses for the dogs because he thought this was a temporary thing. And the dogs were with you for how long?
6 months, ma'am.
6 months. He had substantial vet bills, feeding bills, etc. So he's got a counterclaim. Am I correct that you asked him to really take the dogs because you were selling your house?
Tony was going to go ahead and come down, visit us, visit his family before he went ahead and left. And we agreed that he was going to go ahead and come down and bring dogs back up with him. Yes.
Could you just keep it very short?
Sure.
He agreed to help you out and take your dogs while your house was being sold. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when was that?
Beginning of July of 05.
Where do you live,
I
sir?
live in Sebastopol, California. It's in Sonoma County. It's 400 miles from Ventura, where he lives.
And you came down and did you rent a truck?
I have my own vehicle, a truck, but I didn't want the dogs to ride in the sun in the back of a truck, so we agreed that I would rent a vehicle to take the dogs.
At his expense?
Yeah, but I paid for
And
it.
he was supposed to reimburse you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever reimburse him, Mr. Burke?
We agreed that I was going to go ahead and give him $400, which I did on July 5th, the day that he left.
Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
How long was he supposed to keep the dogs, sir?
It was an undetermined time. We were going to go ahead and put our house on the market. When the house sold, at that point, we'd go ahead and pick the dogs up. The longest period of time would be when we were going to go ahead and move to Texas. We had a predetermined time as to when our house was going to be ready in Texas.
Which was when?
The end of November.
So by the end of November, you were definitely going to pick up the dogs?
Yes.
Did you go and get the dogs?
No.
Why not?
Because I couldn't get a hold of Tony to go ahead and make arrangements.
Had you moved?
I left the state of California on November 28th.
When did you move into your new house in Texas?
December 9th.
Where did you live before that?
The builder didn't have our house ready, so we had to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks.
Well, you weren't taking the dogs into a hotel, sir. Is that right?
Some hotels do keep dogs. We didn't have
That's not what I asked you. When, after December 9th, did he ask you for the return of the dogs?
He's never asked me for the return of the dogs. He was supposed to be there in November to get the dogs. I mean, to me, they're his kids, you know?
When he came to repossess the car, that was on what date?
I don't remember the date.
The day was January 6th.
Did you go there with the police?
I didn't go. There was an agency that went ahead that I hired to go ahead and do it. They notified the police.
Is the title to the car in your name?
I have the bill of sale that they gave me. I couldn't register the vehicle in my name because in California, I couldn't
Can I see
get
the bill of sale, please?
Okay,
so we're going to get over the dogs right now. The dogs are going back with Mr. and Mrs. Burke, and we're going to address the issue of how much they're going to pay you for taking care of them for the 7 months that they were in your care. Okay, so the bill of sale says that you agreed to pay him $5,000. How much did you pay him?
Actually, when I got the vehicle when I took the vehicle, I thought it was actually going to be. I just thought that me watching the dogs and stuff, we're going to work it out when he came in November. But I found out what the Blue Book value was on the vehicle, and I called him on it and told him the Blue Book value on the vehicle is only $2,500. And I figured we were going to work it out when he came to get his dogs, the price.
What was the arrangement, Mr. Burke, with regard to the SUV?
We had a signed contract where he was going to pay us $5,000 with a payment schedule.
Can I see it, please?
That Tony signed as well as my wife.
How much money did you actually pay for the car, sir?
Well, I sent him a check for $500. but he knew I couldn't even afford to come down to get the dogs, let alone have a bunch of money like that to pay for the
Mr.
vehicle.
McNeil, you signed a contract for $5,000. You got a bill of sale that you showed me for $5,000 for the car. If you had what they call buyer's remorse, because after you decided to buy it, you checked the Blue Book value, that's not Mr. Burke's problem. Now, he may not have been the greatest of friends if the Blue Book value was not $5,000, but that's what you agreed to pay. Sent him $500. Did you get?
Yes, I did.
Did you cash it?
Yes, I did.
Good. So what do you want from him?
What I'm looking for him is, according to the state of California.
Just a second. Don't tell me according to the state of California. I'm asking you, you took back the truck after 7 months. He took care of your dogs for 7 months, for which you paid him nothing. He paid you $500 towards the truck. So what do you want from him?
I want repairs to go ahead and bring the vehicle back to its pre-sale condition. Looking for the cost of some of the expenses or some of the dog items that we had given Tony to go up there. In turn, we do recognize the fact that he has spent money on some vet bills and dog food, which we have all line itemed out, and that's what we're looking for, is to be recouping that as well as taking consideration some of the reasonable
You're
expenses.
not getting your car back to its pre-sale condition, sir, because I don't know what its pre-sale condition was.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You didn't pay.
Former friend Tony McNeil owes for a Chevy Blazer and the return of his wife's dogs. Tony is countersuing for rental car fees, pet care costs, and the return of property.
Mr. McNeil, it seems to me, sir, that it is clear that the Burks, that's your old friend, wanted his money or wanted the Blazer back. And you sent him $500 and you signed a contract for $5,000. But Mr. Burke, I don't know what you want, sir. You got your truck back. You're getting your dogs back. You didn't pay a thing to him. And I find that you did care of your dogs for 7 months. Nothing.
I landscaped his yard too when I went.
Just, I don't care if you don't give me baloney. I don't want to hear you landscaped his yard. How much would it cost you to have boarded your 2 dogs for 7 months? Give me an idea.
We probably would have used it for different friends. If we used a boarding company, it probably would have been, I don't know. How much does it cost?
$50 a day.
Let's say it would have cost $20 a day per dog. That's $40 per day. 7 months times 30 is $210. $8,400.
Your Honor, we never intended on Tony keeping them for that long.
Let's say you anticipated him keeping them July, August, September, October, November. 5 months. You want me to tell you how much that would be?
No.
Say thank you. Take your dogs. You're not getting anything else from him?
Your Honor, we have pictures of our truck before we sold it to Tony, of what it was like before we sold it to him.
Figure that in with the $8,000 that it would have cost you to board your dogs. Do you understand? Do you understand? He took care of your animals, fed them, took them to the vet, got their dog food, cleaned them, kept them in, looks to me like very good, healthy condition, and he did that for 7 months. That's a friend that you don't take to court. You get nothing.
Your Honor.
You could call me Your Honor from today until tomorrow. You get nothing.
We couldn't get a hold of him. We tried.
Listen, you get a police officer, you go and you say, he has my dogs, I want them. The truth of the matter is that you weren't ready to take your dogs till December because that's when your house finally got ready. So that's a lot of baloney.
We wanted to take
We want our dogs earlier.
We wanted our dogs
Then
earlier.
you should have, let me tell you something. I have 2 dogs. Somebody took my dogs and I wanted them back. I would get the entire U.S. Marine Corps to accompany me to their home to get my dogs back.
Well,
You
unfortunately,
made
Mr. Bachelor,
no
please
effort.
don't do that.
Listen to me. You made no effort.
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, we did.
Sure.
You got the
How
vehicle
many
back.
What's the effort?
No.
You got the vehicle
paper.
back.
Listen to me. That you do in the comfort of your home. That you sit down and you write out and you say sin. And I'm talking about getting off your behinds and getting in a car like he did and going up and saying to the police, this man has my dogs, I want him back. That you didn't do.
We didn't go ahead and just drive 400 miles just for the sake of driving around. You know,
Mr. Burke,
we know that sounds really good.
Mr. Burke, you got your SUV back and you're getting your dogs back.
I've got a vehicle that's destroyed.
And you have
it cost me $1,500 to go ahead and repo it, and another $1,000 for.
And you had the use of his car for 7 months, and you paid him $500. You are a big grown-up guy. If you choose, when he handed you this and say, listen, this is not really something that I can abide by, then you and Mr. Spain live together and have 2 children together.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are no longer a couple.
Yes, ma'am. No,
despite the fact that you both appear today as plaintiffs. My understanding of this rather complex case is that when you and Mr. Spain separated, Mr. Spain began a relationship with the defendant, Miss Bailey. And he, in fact, moved in with her. According to you, you tried to maintain a civil relationship with both of them, with Mr. Spain for the benefit of the children, and for Miss Bailey just because. But Miss Bailey was not happy with you for some reason, and it is your claim that she vandalized your car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are suing her as a co-plaintiff with Mr. Spain, who says that Miss Bailey kept some of his personal property when he moved out of the house because they are no longer together. Miss Bailey says that she did nothing to your car. It's actually you who harassed her, you and Mr. Spain. That it was Mr. Spain who damaged your car.
Correct.
And that you slashed her tires, you caused her to lose her job, and she wants from you, Mr. Spain, rent for the time that you were living with her. She has a counterclaim. All right, let's try to put some dates to these facts. Mr. Spain, when did you and Miss Johnson live together?
About 2000 and...
Maybe I'll ask Miss Johnson.
We moved in, it was about July 2003.
And how old are your children?
My son is 2 and my daughter is 4.
And when did Mr. Spain move out?
He moved out November 23rd, 2004.
Why?
Because of our differences. It wasn't working out.
When did you move in with Miss Bailey?
About the 26th.
Of what?
Of November.
You knew her from before?
Yes.
From where?
School.
How come you moved in with Miss Bailey?
Because she had asked me to move in with her.
I mean, did you rent a room from her, or were you living together as a couple?
Living together as a couple.
So that while you were with Miss Johnson, you were also...
No. She had...
3 days, sir, you were in somebody else's house.
She had called me on the phone talking to her.
Yeah. When I came home from work, he was on the phone talking to her.
On the 23rd of November?
Yes, ma'am.
So then he moved out and he was living with Miss Bailey. How long did you stay with Miss Bailey, Mr. Spain?
About a month and a half.
Is that right, Miss Bailey?
He moved in November 23rd. He was arrested January the 4th, so that's the last time he lived with me when he got out of jail.
What were you arrested for?
Home invasion.
Burglary?
Nah.
What?
Well, no,
he kicked in the door.
Kicked in her door.
Yeah, he kicked in my door.
You kicked in her door?
Where his kids lay their heads at night.
Shh. What you kicking her door for?
Just jealous, and I was really upset what was going on when I was living with her.
Well, so you were annoyed with Miss Bailey, so you kicked in Miss Johnson's door?
Yes.
It's very logical. Getting too old for this job. All right, Miss Johnson, tell me about the vandalism of your car. When did that happen?
December the 16th.
And you were still living with Miss Bailey, is that right, Mr. Spain?
Yes.
In between the time that they were together, it's been harassing phone calls. I mean, he would call, he would get me upset. He would get me upset, just arguing over our relationship, whatever. Then she would call, and she would play on the phone, repeatedly call, left threatening messages on my voicemail, and I just got, I mean, of course I've defended myself in the argument too, but I guess she got real upset to the point where she wants to come over to my house, and she'd scratch the car.
Well, I want to know, were you home when she scratched the car?
Yeah, I was home, but I was asleep. It happened overnight.
So you didn't see her scratch the car?
No, I didn't see her scratch the car, but I do have a witness with me.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear that witness. Tell me your name, please.
Monica Dykes.
Dykes, did you see on December 16th somebody vandalized Miss Johnson's car?
No, I wasn't with her at the time, but I was at her house. I was spending the night at her house, and she was supposed to go get me something to eat. And
Who was?
Mrs. Bailey. She didn't come back with my food, and I asked her why, and she said because she came in the house with a box cutter, and she said that she had scratched Miss Johnson's car.
Well, how do you know Miss Bailey?
They were going together. This is my brother.
When she came home, she just took out the box cutter and told you? What did she do?
No, she had the box cutter in her hand.
Walked in the door with the box cutter in her hand?
It was in her pocket, and she took it out.
Well, tell me about that. I'm curious about that whole moment when she walked into the house with the box cutter in her pocket.
When she walked into the house, I was like, well, what happened to the Burger King that you're supposed to bring back? She said, well, Burger King was closed, and I just came back from around Mrs. Johnson's house, and I scratched the car up, and I hope she come around here with some... She's lying.
So what did you say to her?
Nothing. I didn't say anything after that.
She's lying. You didn't say, why would you do that?
Well, I asked her why. She said, because she just been harassing me and all this other stuff.
Did she tell you what she'd been doing to harass you?
She said that Miss Johnson has been calling her house numerous of times.
So they were speed dialing each other.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Miss Bailey, now I'll hear from you.
Thank you so much. First of all, he moved in my home November 23rd of 2004. He moved out because he went to jail for kicking in her door. I was pregnant at the time with his kid, So when he got out of jail, I no longer want him in my home anymore. So while the process he's been in jail, me and Christina Stovall right here took all of his belongings.
I'm not at his claim yet, Miss Bailey.
Oh, okay, well, where are we at?
I'm keying her car.
Oh, okay. This is the night that he got arrested. He came over to my house bragging about keying her car in as well as kicking her door in. Why would I key her car? He kicked the key. I mean, he keyed the car in and kicked the door, and he know he did.
I was there.
If he's gonna kick her door in, he's gonna key her car.
He's lying.
Whatever, you lying.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Arthur Spain Jr. claimed Arthur's ex-girlfriend, Tequila Bailey, keyed Kimberly's Pontiac Grand Am. Arthur also says Tequila won't return his belongings.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see. Step up. Tell me your name.
Christina Stovall.
You said that you were present when Mr. Spain acknowledged that he vandalized Miss Johnson's car?
Yes.
When was that?
January 4th.
Tell me about what he said.
Me and Tequila and her two sisters were in the living room. He came in through the door. He was sweating, walking around. You could tell he had did something. This is what he said. He said, I keyed in her car, I kicked in her door, and the police is coming. So Tequila said, let's go upstairs and talk about it.
Yeah, but the police report...
He did it
He did it what?
He did it at 2 different times. When he keyed in her car a couple days before he kicked in her door. But he came in bragging about both of it.
Yeah.
No. No.
Yeah. He keyed her car. I don't know what he keyed the car in, but the night he got arrested...
Listen to me very carefully. Where did you spend Christmas?
At my house.
Did you see Miss Bailey?
I see her every day, all the
And
time.
what about Mr. Spain? Did you see him?
Yeah, I see him.
Shut up.
I used to go to his candy store. He knows who I am.
Okay. So you know them both, and you saw them between December 16th and January 4th. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what you're telling me is on January 4th, he acknowledged keying her car.
Because he came in all nervous.
All right. But the police report is from December 16th. Why in the world would he come in all nervous and hyper and confess to something that he had done on December 16th?
He already confessed to me a long time ago about it.
Because he was scared.
He was bragging.
Sit down.
Okay.
Good. Very good. No, I believe that he kicked in her door, but on December 16th, I believe her when she says that you went out to get her some Burger King and you came back and you keyed her car.
Nah.
Yeah, no.
Nah.
Okay, now, what stuff do you claim that you left at Miss Bailey's home?
Radio, TVs, CDs, DVDs, weights.
Where's all his stuff?
We took 2 trips to his mom's house, and he knows and she knows. As a matter of fact, I had Matt come get the guns that was in my house. They don't have any permits for.
What kind of guns?
Sawed-offs.
BB guns.
Sawed-offs.
Who is this gentleman?
That's my friend.
What does he have to do with this case?
His weights are in her house.
He helped haul
some
belongings
stuff
over to her house.
And we hauled it right back. I don't know what your father did with him, but we hauled it right back.
A few baskets over to his house. This is when he was locked up.
TV returned?
No. And she brought me my shoes, and she brought my shoes, a box full of my shoes, and my mocha truck was in the box.
What kind of television did he bring to your house? Look at me directly. Don't look at the floor.
I'm looking at you. I don't know exactly what kind of television it was. It was a little black box television.
Where is it?
At his mom's house. Me and her took 2 trips to Hallville, Indiana, to give him their stuff. But he got locked up from my house. I got a letter in my mail from my landlord saying that if they find him or anything of his in my house again, I will be in court for eviction because he was not on my lease. So I quickly took all his stuff to his mother's house, all his stuff. He knows it.
She is lying.
Now, Miss Bailey, what I want you to do is I want you to tell me about your counterclaim. You think that Mr. Spain should pay you for rent?
Yes.
What kind of contract did you have with him for you?
We didn't have anything written down, signed, because when you're supposedly having a relationship, you don't do that. But we had verbal. You're going to pay half on everything. You're not going to stay in my house and lay up and sleep, and not pay nothing on anything.
Miss Bailey.
Yes, ma'am.
We live in a civilized society. So I want you to leave your gutter language outside.
I can do that. That's fine.
And you're going to wait until I'm finished speaking before you open your mouth.
Okay.
You're going to leave your gutter language outside, and you're going to remember where you are. We understand each other?
We do.
Perfect.
Kimberly Johnson and Arthur Spain Jr. claim Arthur's ex-girlfriend, Tequila Bailey, keyed Kimberly's Pontiac Grand Am. Arthur also says Tequila won't return his belongings.
I believe that after he moved out, you wanted money, but I don't believe you had an agreement with him to pay you half of everything.
Next. Somebody can't stay with me.
Listen to me. Next.
First of all, my tires were slashed. I couldn't get to work. I had to call in to get my car fixed. Second of all, they're playing on my phone. He's coming to my job, my new job and my old job, harassing on me on my job.
Well, just a second. What did he say when he came to your job?
I broke up with him. He wants to be with me. He loves me. He wants to be a family. Let's make it work. I don't want to be with you. I want to be family. Go raise your 2 kids with Kimberly.
Just a second. I don't understand you.
What do you mean?
You're talking too fast.
I talk fast all the time. I know. He wants to be with me.
So he came to you telling you that he wanted to be with you, he wanted to be a family.
Making a scene. Yeah, making a scene at work. He wanted to be with me.
And that's why you got fired?
That, and I had to call in because I was pregnant with his child, and while he was in jail. I couldn't work.
You think that he's responsible for you?
Yeah, he helped me make the baby. Yeah.
What?
He helped make the baby. Yeah, he's responsible.
That's not a lawsuit.
It is mine.
It's not one that I'm going to hear.
That's fine, Miss Judge Judy.
It's not one that I'm going to hear. How many children do you have?
I have 1.
Okay, so you know how babies are made, right?
I do.
If you don't want to have a baby, then what you do is you take precautions so that you don't have a baby. If somebody moves in with you in December and you get pregnant between December and January 4th, you're not too swift.
Right.
Can I see pictures of your car?
Yes. Yeah, Your Honor, she scratched the whole driver's side, and she also...
Can I just see the pictures of the car? Okay, did you have these scratches taken care of?
No, ma'am.
You have an estimate on how much it's going to cost?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Scratches taken care of? That's a reasonable estimate. Listen, there is no question in my mind that the two of you women behaved badly towards each other, right?
Right.
I think Mr. Spain behaved badly, too. Listen, Miss Bailey, don't get in between people. It's always a very bad idea. If someone has a fight with his wife, woman, girlfriend, whatever it is, and if you take him in the day that he had a fight, and then if you make a baby with him, that makes you a smart woman who's not acting too smart, or a stupid woman who's not acting too smart. I don't know which one you are.
I was stupid.
But whoever you are, you owe us $600 to have a car painted. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are...
Your claim that Miss Tarrant, with whom you were briefly involved, owes you money for a car that you purchased for her daughter, and for impound fees later when the car was impounded because her daughter didn't have a driver's license. Ms. Tarrant indicates that both of those things were gifts and you did not seek any money until after she decided she no longer wanted to be involved in a committed relationship with you. Is that what this case is about?
Yes.
Fine. Where is the car now?
The car is in front of my house now.
You have not sought to have the car returned to you, have you?
No.
Smart lady. Mr. Ford, can you explain to me why this is a relatively new purchase? According to your complaint, the car was purchased for her daughter sometime in February, correct?
In March.
So it was driven by her for a relatively short period of time. Why don't you just sell it?
The reason why I don't want to sell it, because I'm really not in this business of selling car. I had purchased the car for Elizabeth because she needed a car for her daughter. And it was an understanding, a mutual understanding between us two, and a contract that we had, which she didn't sign.
Well, then I'm not interested in it, sir. My question to you is a very practical one. This is a relationship that clearly was not going anywhere. The only nexus tie that you had to each other was this car. You got your the car back, and I understand that you're not in the car business, but I don't know what your losses are.
Well, the car was impound, and she had agreed to pay me for the impound, out of impound, and the only way that I was able to get the car out of impound was that her daughter had to have a driver's license, so they could release the car to me from out of impound. I took her daughter to get a driver's license, and she had a driver's license, and I went to pick up the car from the impound. I incurred losses there. Now, she agreed that she would pay for these losses that I had incurred.
You mean for the impound fees?
For the impound, yes.
That's not unreasonable. What do you do for a living, Mr. Ford?
I'm a barber.
Is it your own business?
Yes, it is.
And you're a businessman, Mr. Ford, and you appear to be an intelligent person. Right? You may not know a lot about cars. I don't know a lot about cars either. But I know that if I had a piece of property in my possession, in this case a car, and I had the title to it, which you do at this point because she signed it over to you, before I would bring her to court, I would put an ad in the paper, a sign in the window, and I would say, I'm going to sell this car and see what I get for it. And then you won't be out any money unless you just wanted to bust her chops. So, Mr. Ford, before you come to court, go sell the car and see if you come up with a shortfall on the money you laid out. Do we understand each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. Goodbye.
Smith, step forward.
20-year-old Robert Aiken is suing his ex-fiancée, 22-year-old Cheryl Smith, for unpaid bills and late fees. Cheryl claims Robert is obsessed with her.
Mr. Aiken, Miss Smith was your fiancée for a period of time. I assume you lived together for a period of time. And it is your claim that you put some money into her checking account in order to pay some bills.
Correct.
You broke up, and she put a stop payment on the bills you had paid. Well,
Yeah, she did it online. She stopped all payments.
I don't understand how you do that. I like that little checkbook. You write it out, you deposit it. I don't understand the online stuff, but you want that money back.
Correct.
Ms. Smith said nothing could be farther from the truth. You put money into the account. You did pay bills with the money you put into the account. You started to pay some more bills with money that you hadn't put into the account, so she put a stop payment on those bills. She has a counterclaim. She says that at some point immediately preceding your breaking up, she covered the entire rent because you were short, so that you owe her for rent. And in addition, and more importantly, she says that since the breakup, you've been involved in some serious harassment. So the money part should be relatively easy. How much money did you put into her account?
Total, 2 checks of $420 and $316.84, so $736.84.
When?
The $420 was put in on August 12th, and the $316.84 was put in August 11th.
When had you covered the rent, Ms. Smith?
I wrote the check on August 1st.
And how much was the rent?
$662.70.
Was it your responsibility to pay the rent?
We both paid the rent. It was joint money.
Immediately prior to the 11th of August, when did you make your preceding deposit in her bank account?
I would give her cash when I got my check because she was writing all the checks for bills. So I would just cash and stuff of that nature. I have no proof of it. Sorry. I'm a hand person.
Now, he put in the $736. What bills did he pay with it?
Well, my counterclaim is I have bills that total $548.44 that I paid for him, in addition to the rent for $662.70.
It wasn't like a split right down the middle. We were
Well,
just
it should be. It's all sounding very good for Miss Smith, Mr. Aiken. What I want to know is, did she make payments for you in the amount of $548? To whom?
She made certain bills.
To whom?
There was a $200 payment to his father.
That was to your father?
That's correct.
What, do you owe him money?
A car payment. It's in his name.
Go ahead.
$63.94 for his Comcast bill.
Uh-huh.
I also have penalties in which I was charged in order to stop the 3 payments that he was unauthorized to make.
Just a second. I want to know what the payments were that you made, not the fees. The payments were that you made.
And without the penalties, there were bills totaling $196 made prior.
Made prior to when?
Prior to August 1st for him.
Forget it. You paid $263 that you can account for, not $548. You know, you look like butter with milk in her mouth. You know, you keep turning it around, and she becomes a more interesting character. 736 minus 263, $473. That's what's left over. Now, we're going to say that he owes you half for the rent, because that's part of your counterclaim. So we're going to take off $330 from that. $143 you owe him. You got it?
Now, what about the payments that she stopped, though?
Good, she stopped them. Good, she should stop them. $143. Gets expensive when you play house. Now I want to hear about the harassment, because that troubled me. You say that he called you over 100 times in a short period of time?
That is correct.
Let me see. Why do you keep calling her, Mr.
There
Aiken?
were different occasions equaling up to it. I was trying to call her in the beginning to try to get some of the money without going to court. And then from time to time, she would be like, okay, well, I'll pay you something. And she'd be like, well, let's meet up here. And say at 1 o'clock, it'd be like 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I'd call her. She'd be like, yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. So it's just different phone calls basically trying to resolve this money issue.
Well, but I'm looking at it.
It's just continuous.
For instance, I'm looking on the 23rd of August after another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18 calls, one right after another.
That would just, as far as that was
Were
just...
you leaving messages on her machine?
No, I didn't leave voicemails. I left, I think, maybe one voicemail. The rest were she'd pick up the phone and then she'd hang it up, and I'd try to get back to her and talk to her,
She doesn't want to talk to you.
I understand that.
Well, but when do you start getting that message, Mr. Aiken, that she doesn't want to talk to you? If, according to you, she picks up the phone and hangs up, she doesn't want to talk to you.
I was just trying to get money, like I said, with these bills,
You
the credit
kept
cards
annoying
and
her.
cell phones. When the payments got stopped,
You
they shut
kept
off the cell
annoying
phone.
her. Since August, have there been any further calls?
Not since the personal protection order was issued.
Okay, do you have a copy of that?
Absolutely.
Let me see. Was it a permanent order or a temporary order?
It holds for 1 year.
So you consented to this, sir?
Yeah.
Well, if you consented to it of necessity, the judge had to say to you, you're entitled to a trial, right?
Yeah, we showed up and had a hearing.
Oh, you had a hearing, so the judge found you guilty of harassing her.
Yeah, I told him the story, and I told him the phone calls, and he gave it to
Okay, but after that, you stopped.
her. Yeah, I have not contacted her since.
Anything else you want to tell me about your counterclaim, Ms. Smith?
Yes. As far as for the harassment, this has seriously been going on for a long time. Numerous phone calls and numerous times showing up at my place of employment, numerous times threatening my child, numerous times threatening me. He's physically assaulted me.
After he physically assaulted you, did you remain in the relationship?
No.
When, according to you, was the first time that he physically became violent with you?
On August 7th.
So that was about the time that you were breaking up?
That is correct.
Okay, so this wasn't a history, as you indicated?
No.
Fine. And what did he do to you on the 7th?
On the 7th, he shoved me into a wall and left me captive in the closet of our apartment until I had talked to him.
I don't understand that.
Our closet is a small room. I was in there actually packing some clothes, and he stood in the doorway and refused to allow me to leave.
So he kept you captive there?
Correct.
Because he wanted to talk to you?
Correct.
He's over it. You get over it. He's finished, right?
Correct.
Going to stay away from her? Going to get you $148? Correct. Leave her alone?
Without question.
You made a bad choice. Put a period. Move on. Counterclaims.
Judge, you may be seated.
Ms. Perez, how long were you and Mr. Delgado together?
A little over 5 years.
You have no children together?
No children.
Records indicate that this is not the first lawsuit that you filed against Mr.
It is not.
Delgado. When did you separate from him?
We separated in November of '03. I filed a lawsuit against him when I could find him. He was on the run.
Is that around the time that you allege he both damaged your car, which is the subject of this lawsuit, and assaulted you, broke your finger?
It is.
After that happened, he left. You did not live together anymore.
That's correct.
Now, this is one lawsuit. How many lawsuits have you filed, not about this charge, against Mr. Delgado in total? Because our records indicate you have had other cases against
4.
him. For what?
One's not resolved.
Well, what is it about?
A motorhome. I owned 3 houses, 4 cars, and a motorhome. And he took off at the motorhome. I gave him a car. And the other one has to do with tax issues. He hadn't filed taxes in 5 years. And the other one is the broken finger and the laptop.
Just a second. If he hadn't filed taxes in how many years, what does that have to do with you?
He contacted me to try and help him get it done, for my accountant to do it for him.
When had he contacted you?
May of '04.
Did you lend him money, allegedly?
I did.
Has that case been resolved?
That case has been resolved.
In whose favor?
I dropped the lawsuit because he was crying and pleading to drop the lawsuit that he would make a payment.
Perez, in May of 2004, did you lend him money or allow him to use your account?
I did not loan him money, but he was using my accountant that I'm in good standing with to do his taxes and didn't have a checkbook to pay him with. So I was taking on the debt because it was my accountant.
Were you speaking to her in May of 2004?
Yes, ma'am. We met with the accountant together on May 15th and signed my taxes. She had had all my tax records.
You met together?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you met together, did you have lunch before you went to the accountant?
We met at a restaurant with the accountant.
So
on the way.
I'm speaking. So you had lunch together?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you contact Ms. Perez prior to May of 2004?
I had talked to her several times prior to that.
Where were you when you contacted her?
At the same home I'm at right now. I haven't moved or changed phone numbers.
Did you see Ms. Perez at any time between November of 2003 and May of 2004?
No, ma'am.
Did not see her?
No, ma'am.
That is not true.
That's not true?
No.
When did you see him?
I gave him 30 days to remove his items from the house I was moving from San Diego to Los Angeles. He never took everything at one time and kept calling once a day to come pick something else up from the house.
So
that
you
went
saw
on for January 28th of '04. And I moved on February 26th of '04.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I can show here where I have papers where I sold my house in Oceanside and it closed escrow on January 12th. I have here canceled checks and loan documents were on January 22nd. I was in Kansas City, already purchased another home. I haven't been back here.
It's so fascinating to me because I'm gathering all kinds of information and you are taking positions, each of you, that is inconsistent with the position that you really want to take with regard to this lawsuit, just to fight with each other.
No, ma'am, I'm not. I didn't care, and that's my position.
Well, we're going to get there. What you're doing is you're not helping yourself because you're not thinking it through. Let me get there for you, Mr. Delgado. According to your complaint, Ms. Perez, sometime in November of 2003, at about the time that you separated, Mr. Delgado damaged your car. And after he damaged your car, about a week later, you got into an altercation and he assaulted you. You're going to tell me about those two things.
Okay.
Because that's what this lawsuit is about. So let's get there, and let's get there, Ms. Perez, quickly.
The assault actually happened on October 3rd of '03. The last time I ever saw him again was November 18th of '03.
Well, between October 3rd of '03 and November 18th, did you live together?
No.
Did you stay together?
No.
Tell me what happened on October 3rd, 2003.
Okay. He used to work at a hotel chain and called me one day to bring 8 kids home. Their apartments were not ready yet. They were to be employed at the hotel he was working. I allowed him to bring these 8 kids home, and it turned into a fiasco for the next 2 weeks until the apartments were ready. I have evidence of what my house was like, what his behavior was like.
Can we get to the October 3rd, 2003?
Come to find out, he was fooling around with one of the kids staying at my house and would come home daily in a combative mood, and subsequently threw a cell phone at my car out of anger and took my car drunk, pulled into the garage and ran over a hand dolly. I have pictures before he did that, after he did that.
Was that on October 3rd?
The last event was on October 3rd. That was prior to
Talking
October.
about the car.
The car was prior to October 3rd.
Date?
September 27th.
Between September 27th and October 3rd, did you live together?
He was keeping hours at the hotel. He would stay at the hotel.
Ms. Perez, between September 27th...
Not as boyfriend and girlfriend, no.
Now, get to October 3rd, 2003.
My cleaning lady was at the house, and we were in the garage. And not to disrupt her cleaning, this is my cleaning lady, we went in the garage. We started having a heated argument over things that were happening with all the kids at the hotel, and it turned into a pushing, shoving, spitting match. He proceeded to spit in my face.
What did you do to him?
Pushed him off of me, and that's how my finger got broken.
Just a second. You said to me it turned into a pushing, fighting, spitting match.
Well,
match is your term. Now you've told me what you say he did to you. You tell me what you did to him.
Happened to be in the same room.
Well, you just told me, shh, Ms. Perez, you just told me that you broke your finger pushing him
off of me.
Well, how was he on you?
I was on the couch. He was towering over me.
You were on the couch in a garage.
Right. We had a computer, a television, a hockey table. It was like a game room.
So you're on the couch in the garage.
I don't allow smoking inside my house. And that's
You're on the couch in the garage, and he's on top of you.
Right.
And you pushed him off you.
That's correct.
And you broke your finger.
That's correct.
What else?
My cleaning lady at the time was inside cleaning the house. I went inside, got my keys, purse, and had to go pick up my 8-year-old from school. I went and picked up my 8-year-old from school, took him with me to the emergency room. And because he was with me, I really didn't want him knowing what was going on. So I went to the doctor and told him it had occurred from fooling around. Now, the break was a circular break, and it broke
You have the emergency room records?
I absolutely do, and
good
pictures.
Well, can I ask you this question?
I have a diagram.
Shh. I don't want a diagram. I don't want pictures. I asked you for the emergency room records. And if you were going to the emergency room, that you were just going to pick up your son so that he wouldn't be left out at school without someone caring for him.
That's correct.
Why didn't you take your housekeeper with you, who was here today, so that she could sit outside with your son if you were going to the emergency room?
She was leaving. She had another job to go to, and
Did you ask her to stay?
No, I did not. I was leaving.
It was an emergency. You were going to the emergency room.
That's correct.
Told the doctor you were fooling around, snapping kitchen towels.
That's correct, because my 8-year-old was with me, and I did not want to subject him to all the things going on. He had been around Joe since he was 2, and I really didn't want to crush or make him scared about any of the occurrences going on.
So what are you suing him now for? You don't think your son's going to know about this?
No, I've kept it from him.
Well,
he's in school.
10 million people watch this program, madam.
He's in school with after-school activities.
You got a lot of excuses.
He goes,
Mr. Delgado, you want to tell me what, if anything, you remember about October 3rd?
You know, all I know is that we have a dog named Daisy that was a shepherd mix. We always used to take a towel, and she would get one in, and you'd grab her, and she'd like this and play with her. I came home. She said she was wrestling with the dog. Daisy pulled on the towel, and she broke her finger.
Your Honor?
She drove...
I don't want to hear you. You see how quiet he was?
She drove herself to the doctor and came home with the medical report, said her finger was broken, and they were going to wait and see for a few weeks whether she needed to have any surgery or anything else done on it. At the time, we had the same medical insurance. We were in the same house, everything. That was the last I ever heard it until 2 years later. I get my 4th lawsuit from her about that.
Your Honor, I have a diagram drawn by the doctor, the surgeon, of what needs to be done to repair my finger. My cleaning lady was there at the house and can tell you what she heard from inside the house, and we were in the garage. Come on.
Tell me your name, please.
Yolanda Marcial.
How long have you worked for Miss Perez?
More than 8 years.
8 years. Why didn't you go with her to the emergency room, Miss Marcial?
Because I was working in the house. I was busy in the house, and I just getting ready to leave.
What time of the day were you getting finished with your job?
Around like 2 something.
In the afternoon?
2 something.
And where were you going?
To Oceanside.
What's in Oceanside?
I was working for another lady in Oceanside.
What time do you do there?
Around like, I got traffic around like 4 over there to Oceanside.
How long did you remain in the house after Miss Perez left to go and pick up her son?
When she left to get, around like maybe like 45 minutes.
Did Miss Perez ask you to accompany her to the emergency room?
No.
Did you offer to accompany her to the emergency room?
No.
When she came inside, did she show you her hand?
She walked with the hand like that, and I know that something happened because I heard screaming in the garage and fighting in the garage.
When you heard screaming and fighting in the garage, did you go into the garage?
No. I'm only the cleaning person, and I've nothing.
You heard screaming and
Yes,
fighting
and
in the garage, and you didn't go in there? Did you call the police?
No.
You just went on vacuuming. Sit down, Miss Barcial. Put your hand down.
I have pictures.
Not interested in the pictures. More interested in the statement that you made to the doctor when you went in there.
I had my 8-year-old with me.
I don't believe that that's the reason you make up that kind of a lie.
I had to.
No, you don't. You have to say, would you go sit over there? And doctor, I want to tell you privately what happened. That's what you do. I mean, otherwise, the doctor believes what you're saying, correct?
Correct.
Correct, because you give the doctor information, because based upon that information, it helps them treat whatever's wrong with you.
I came up with that story to protect my child.
No, that's a lot of baloney. That's baloney. I'm older than you are. I've been to the emergency room, both with myself and my children. Over the course of the years, little things happen. And you can always say, go over and sit there with that nice nurse for a second because the doctor wants to see me.
I tried to call 911, and he threw the phone.
Listen to me very carefully. You were out of the house. You went to pick up your child. You say to her, do me a favor, leave now and call the police. I'm leaving now. I'm going to the police. You did nothing. You did absolutely nothing except go to the emergency room on the 3rd for whatever reason and tell the doctor that you hurt yourself fooling around with a towel.
I was protecting my child.
You keep saying that, and I keep saying to you, I don't believe you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Get over it.
Is accusing her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Delgado Jr., of damaging her car and breaking her finger.
Now, there's a lawsuit that she filed against you that she won a judgment for $1,000.
No, ma'am, she didn't win a judgment. She dropped the lawsuit. I paid the $1,000.
Tell me about that $1,000, sir.
After we'd split up, we hadn't talked for a while. I was behind on my taxes. Finally, I called Linda a couple times and talked to her, and we kind of were in an amicable position where I said, listen, I need to file my taxes. So she agreed that she would give me my tax paperwork and everything back.
Why did you leave without your tax paperwork?
I left just about everything I had there.
Why?
Because we're just not getting along, and that was enough.
When did you leave?
I don't remember the exact date, but I was out of there by the end of October.
So there came a time that you called her and said to her what?
That I wasn't coming back.
Taxes.
Oh, taxes? Well, I'd asked for this before I left California, you know, and I was not...
Fine. So she said she'd give you your paperwork.
And finally, in about April of 2004, and then what she's telling the truth about the account, and we used her account, and I have the paperwork here, and I flew out here on May 15th, 2004. We all three met. It was a respectable day. We didn't fight. Nothing happened. We didn't argue. She brought the paperwork, she said. The accountant did the paperwork, and she did write the check for the $1,000, and I paid that back. And then I got back to Kansas City, where I live, and then on August 24th, I get from Blockbuster Video a bill from Canoga Park, 10 movies all rented in one day under my name. So I called out there and I said, listen.
Can I see that, please?
I said, I don't live in California. I haven't been in California.
Your Honor, all of our kids have the same Blockbuster card.
Well, yes, they do. And this is where it got real interesting, where Blockbuster knew who exactly rented them. Because our kids before, both of our older boys, would go down and rent movies, and we had late fees, Linda and I went to Blockbuster, and we put a password on our account. So in order to rent movies, you had to know that password. When I called this Blockbuster and said, I don't know this money, they said, yes, you're the primary person on the account, and the person that used that account used the password to get those movies. They rented all 10 of them one day and never brought one of them back.
That was in August of 2004.
And that's after all this. Sorry.
Okay. Tell me about the return of the $1,000, sir.
I took my credit card at Bank of America in Kansas City, and I went down and put that into her account.
So what was the lawsuit about?
I don't remember all the. There was a couple of things in there she was suing me for, but that was part of it. Immediately after I got back, she filed the lawsuit. I should have paid it quicker, but, you know, I had told her. But we were in contact the whole time. She knew. And then I went down and paid it. Then I flew out here. Then the lawsuit got canceled after I'd flown all the way out here. Then I go back home. Then this happened. You know, it's like this Paxos. We finally got the paperwork settled together. We meet in a restaurant to eat. You know what? You drop the lawsuit. I pay the money. She just said that. Then the Blockbuster thing happens out of no reason. 2 years later, I get 4 more lawsuits. And I'm going to fly back out here again. And at the time, the finger in the car insurance, we had even the same car insurance until December 12th. We never had any claims. We never had any problems. The health insurance that she went to the doctor with was my health insurance.
Your Honor, he got fired from...
I'm speaking. When did you file the lawsuit with regard to the taxes?
September of 04.
When did you drop that lawsuit?
The end of September of 04.
When did you file this lawsuit?
October 27th, I believe.
All right. Ms. Perez, I'm not going to totally annihilate you. I'm just going to do it very, very quickly because, quite frankly, I have more important... I'm speaking! Your complaint says that the reason you didn't file this lawsuit sooner was because Joe went on the run and I was unable to locate him because he left the state. In September 2004, I was finally able to find him, and I immediately filed a small claims case against Joe for my car and assault damages. Once he was served, he contacted me, begged me to drop the case, and said he would start making payments. When I received his first payment of $1,000, I went and dismissed the case without prejudice. That is a lie. That's a lie. Because the case that you dismissed in September of 2004 had nothing to do with the car and the assault. I'm speaking. It had to do with the taxes, that he paid you the $1,000, so you dismissed that case. That's what you just told me.
It wasn't solely the taxes.
And you told me that you filed this case September 27th, 2005. Get over it. Put a period. He doesn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. It was 5 years out of your life. Move on. Ms. Santos, according to your complaint, the defendant drove your car with your permission.
Yes.
Had an accident. You wanted to pay for the damage to your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Allison has some excuse. She has a counterclaim. She says you assaulted her, moved out of an apartment that you were sharing together. You took furniture that didn't belong to you, and you owe her for some utility bill. How long were you roommates?
10 months.
When did this incident happen with your car?
October 25th of 05 at about 11:46 a.m.
And when had you moved in together?
February 1st, 2005, so about 10 months.
When did you move out?
The last day of November, so by December 1st.
Tell me about the accident, Miss Allison. How did you have an accident with her car?
I was in the parking garage of our hotel that we both worked for at the time, and I was in agreement with her that I was to pull the car out to bring it to the front so we could get into the vehicle to take her break and go home. At that time, when I pulled out of the garage, I nicked the back quarter panel and door on the passenger side on a podium that stands very tall in the garage.
So you hit an object that wasn't moving?
Correct.
Clearly then your fault?
Yes, Your Honor.
So then clearly you're responsible to pay for the damage?
Your Honor, yes, I am responsible for the damages due as she is to my eye.
Clearly you're responsible for the damage to her car?
Certainly responsible.
Good. May I see pictures of the damage to your car?
This is the whole car. That's the damage.
That's the whole car. This is the damage.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Whole car damage.
Your Honor, I did suggest that she call the police or make a statement.
Shh. Did you get an estimate for fixing the car?
Yes, I got
May I
3.
have it, please? Show these to the defendant.
Thank you. Your Honor, may we still ask what time this was taken?
I don't care what time it was taken.
Well, she could have done more damages to the car, Your Honor, because she did not make a file or a complaint at the time. I repeatedly asked.
You told me, madam, that you scratched the quarter panel?
Correct.
How much do you think, based upon your vast experience with cars, it would cost to fix that?
I'm not sure, and I do not fully believe that she did not do more damage to the car following the incident, but I would say about $800, less than $1,000 for sure.
Okay, good. She's only suing you for $700, so that would be a reasonable figure. Now, after the incident happened, you claim she assaulted you. Why don't you tell me about it?
On November the 19th, I called into work, wherein my boss, who is to the right of me here as a witness, I called into work due to being ill with a kidney infection. Melissa came home from work. I was outside, upstairs, where our laundry is, where my brother, who's to the left of me, and another friend of ours who was present at the time were upstairs of the apartment. I left the back door unlocked, and I left my keys and my cell phone inside of our apartment. Melissa came home because she has psychological problems.
Just tell me what happened.
She came in, dropped all the shades, locked all the doors. She did try to call my cell phone a couple times. She located my cell phone inside the house, so that means she realized that I had to be around. I come downstairs to come back into the house. I'm locked out of my own house. And we called from my brother's phone to inquire with her why she locked the door and if she would please come unlock it. She didn't answer the first call. The second call she did answer. She said she would be there soon. Approximately 15 to 20 minutes later, she shows up fully dressed, hair done, shoes on, to open the door. When very easily she could have slipped on a robe and opened the door for her roommate, who's been her roommate and friend for 10 months. Friend for longer than that. But she chose not to. Verbally, we got in a large argument, and her instability issues and safety and security issues that she feels we have
discrepancies over, and she hit me at our front door. As we're arguing, she put her face in my nose, face to face. I've never been that close in contact with anyone. Stepped back and welled me with her right arm in my left eye. Then she went for me a second time, and I pushed her back and told her she was crazy and to remove her hands from me, and that there was no reason for this. That if there is a problem, then we are to address it as roommates and friends and to work it out as responsible people. That there was no reason why she should have locked the door and left me outside of my own house. And yes, I did wreck her car, and I told her I would cover those charges. But when she assaulted me, Your Honor, that was incorrect, and that was not right. May I make another statement? Okay.
I don't see how she lasted 10 months.
I don't either.
Go.
I did come home from her birthday party. I wasn't actually working, and I entered the house, and no one was there. No one was in the front. No one was in the back.
You checked the back room?
Don't speak!
No problem, Your Honor.
I went to the back porch. I didn't see anyone. I called her about, I would say, 3 times. I needed to get in the shower. I was on my way to another birthday party. So, living in a neighborhood we live in, downtown St. Petersburg, where there's lots of bums and so on. I went ahead, locked the door, took a shower. They called me while I was in the shower, so of course I wasn't going to answer. Then I got out, answered, and said I'll be there in a minute. I threw on my clothes, did not have my shoes on, and opened the door, and that's when she went irate on me as she walked in.
Well, tell me what happened.
Then as she came in and started yelling at me, she started telling me she can't live with someone that's so uncomfortable because I have to have the doors locked, and I have to have the shades down when no one's there. And then I went back in my room, got ready. Then I came out to walk out to go to the birthday party, and she just started chasing me and being very hostile and aggressive. Came following me basically all the way to the front door. And then I did push her away from me, and she pushed me back. And then I walked out and I left.
Did you hit her in the eye?
No.
Can I say something? I was there. I was in the house at the time.
I didn't say yes.
And her brother was at the house, but he was not present in the room it happened in.
She says that you hit her in the eye. That you punched her in the eye.
No.
She punched you with a hand or a fist?
It was not a full close punch, Your Honor. It was in between a slap and a fist. She did it quickly.
Just answer my question. I asked you, was it a punch or a slap?
It was neither. It was a cup of a hand, not fully formed into a fist.
Did you take photographs of your injuries?
Actually, I did not.
Did you see a doctor for your injuries?
I did not. I did call the police station. I filed a complaint via the phone, did not file one on paper.
When you filed a police report over the phone, did they tell you to come in and file it in person?
They said I would have had to call day up.
Did you? They say you had to come in and file it in person.
No, they did not, Your Honor.
Did you get a copy of the police report that you filed over the phone?
No, Your Honor.
Because you have to go in person and file a police report.
They said they had to come to my home where it happened, Your Honor.
Well, you were home anyway. You were sick. Why didn't you let them come to your house?
I quite honestly did not want to cause more of a scene than what already was caused. I feel for her and her insecurities and her problems that she suffers from.
Get over it.
Get over it?
Yes, get over it.
Well, then she should get over her car injury as well.
No. Listen to me.
She damaged my eye.
Listen to me. If someone punched me in the eye and damaged my eye, my dear, I would have called the police and had them come to the house or gone there to file a report.
Well, I feel for someone who's mentally ill like she is, and I did not want to prosecute her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Where is the...
Former friend Chasey Allison owes for crashing her car in a parking garage. Chasey is countersuing, claiming Melissa punched her in the eye.
If someone hit me and I was home that day anyway, I would have filed a police report. I would have taken a photograph because you say your eye was damaged.
There was no huge marking. It hurt my head. I had a headache for hours upon hours. She did not knock me a fist in the eye and cause a mark on my eye.
All right, $700. Now, when did you move out?
That seemed like a week and a half later.
What furniture did you leave with?
The entertainment center, the couch, the chair, and the coffee table, and a lamp.
What did she take?
Her dresser, her bed, everything that was basically everything else that was hers.
Did you take your bed?
Yes.
Did you take your dresser?
Yes.
All right, well, she took her dresser, you took your dresser. She took her bed, you took your bed. But the things that you purchased jointly, you took.
And she can really have them because I'm paying for them to be stored right now as it is. So
you're willing to give them to her if she wants them?
If she wants them, yeah.
You want those things back?
I want the money that we agreed to split. No, Your Honor, I do not want the furniture.
We never agreed, Your Honor.
Listen to me. You have your choice. You get nothing, or you get the furniture. She's willing to give it to you. Do you want the furniture?
No, Your Honor, I do not want the furniture.
Well, that's what you complained about. You said she took the furniture.
I complained that she took my part of the money that we agreed we would sell and split if we moved out.
Well, here you go. You don't even have to bother. She's going to give you all the things. You could sell it. You can keep it all. She doesn't want it. That's even better.
Why
that
did
gives
she
you
take
100%.
it? If she didn't want it, why did she take it?
Because we had
Just a second. I have other things to do today. I still have other cases to hear today. For whatever reason, she doesn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. She says you want the furniture. Take the furniture and sell it. Keep the whole thing. You just said to me, we had an agreement that we would sell the furniture and split it. She doesn't want to split it. She wants you to take all the furniture so you can
I'm
sell
not going
it.
to store the furniture, Your Honor, now that I'm out of that residence. We were to sell it there at that residence.
You don't have to store it. Sell it.
Your Honor, she took our belongings.
Miss Allison.
Can I submit my...
No. Submit nothing. I think what you have to do is you really have to grow up. And I don't know, what kind of work? What kind of work do you do?
I do marketing and promotions for an entertainment event guide.
You have to give us $700 to fix her car. You wanted to take the furniture? You have 5 days to get the furniture. Where is the storage
It's at my
facility?
mom's location, my mom's house.
So it's not in a storage facility?
No, I'm paying her to store it there.
That's a lot of baloney. You're not paying your mother to store it there. I don't like people who give me baloney. 5 days from today, she's to come with a police escort. You have to have the stuff available to her if she wants it. After that, you can dispose of it. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'll prepare the order. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why is your excuse you may step out?
Just kind of all boiled down to just one argument.
I think the damages done to her car definitely infuriate.
Sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Jenkins, you insist. And as far as I can gather from your the judgment of divorce, your former husband was awarded a car.
Yes, ma'am.
And the car was jointly owned, and there was a loan on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Oswald was to assume the responsibility of that loan, pay off the car, use the car if he wished. When you left the house, which was when?
I moved out approximately the first week of April of 2005.
You took the car with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And ultimately returned it to the bank?
Yes, ma'am.
They sold it?
Yes, ma'am.
And there is a shortfall on the loan of $4,700.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want Mr. Oswald to pay that?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Oswald says?
Absolutely not.
You took the car, you turned it back, it's your problem.
That's
That's
correct.
your answer.
Absolutely.
He has a counterclaim. We'll get to it in a minute. All right, Ms. Jenkins, you want to explain to me why he should be responsible for this loan?
Yes, ma'am. I pretty much made all of the payments throughout the whole of the time we had the car together.
When was it bought?
It was purchased in December of 2003.
Okay.
So he primarily used the car. I had another car that I used to drive, and at one point he had a job where he had to drive back and forth from Bakersfield to Los Angeles.
I understand that you may feel as if there are certain equities in your favor, but you have a judgment of divorce that makes this his car.
Well, exactly. The reason I actually took the vehicle was once we filed for divorce, which was September of 2004, he was awarded the car, which I said was fine because I never really wanted it anyway. But he said, I will go down and assume the loan, take your name off the loan. I said, that's fine. That's all I asked.
He can't do that. That's totally up to the bank.
Well, that's right. We did speak to the bank, and they did say that that was a possibility as long as he qualified for the loan, which Mr. Oswald has a problem with employment, so I was the one that had the full-time job.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying to you, Ms. Jenkins. You may agree that you're going to take your name off the loan. He may agree he's going to take off the loan. The bank says, I'm keeping the one who I'm going to get payments from on this loan.
Exactly.
That's what happened.
You're absolutely right, Your Honor, and that's why I'm still making the payments on this car to this very day. In fact, when I get home, I have to go make another payment on this car. But when I took the car...
Well, had you discussed taking the car with Mr. Oswald?
Actually, no, ma'am, I didn't. I felt at that point he wasn't going to do anything. He had from September to April to when I moved out to take care of the situation. He even discussed with me that he was going to speak to his father about co-signing. I was getting ready to move out. We had an altercation where he became violent, and I said, that's it, I'm moving out. I went and got an apartment, and in discussing again for the 1,000th time him taking my name off of this paperwork and getting this car taken care of, the bank called me at work and said that the car was 2 months behind in payments. They said, and I used the words, we are looking for it.
In any event, you were then resorted to self-help and you took
yes,
the car
ma'am,
yourself.
I did.
All right,
I did.
Mr. Oswald, when was the last time you made a payment on this car?
The situation that we had was that I would...
That requires a month. September, October, November, December.
I understand that.
The word situation is not a month.
I understand that, too.
So, are you going to answer my question? In
Yes, I
what
will.
month did you make your last payment on this car?
I personally did not make the actual payments. I paid her cash.
When was the last time, Mr. Oswald,
It would have been...
you made a payment on this car?
I believe it was 2 months overdue by the time she moved out.
Why?
Well, during the last few months that we were in the same domicile, we were having financial problems. We were both going our separate ways, and
Just
it was...
a second. Had the divorce been finalized?
It had not.
Had you entered into a separation agreement?
No, she was still living with me.
When was there an order giving you the car?
On March 30th, 2005, as specified by the divorce order.
No, the divorce decree became final in May of 2005.
All right, Ms. Jenkins, when did you know that he was receiving legal possession of this car?
When I filed the paperwork in September of 2004.
Okay. You knew in September that this was your car and your responsibility, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't make payments for 2 months. And you're going to tell me that's because you were having financial difficulties.
I made arrangements to have the car purchased. I actually have a statement here from someone who was going to purchase the car.
Show me a statement, sir.
That's news to me.
If you, shh, Mr. Oswald.
Yes.
So my question to you is, did you discuss with Miss Jenkins that you were going to imminently sell the car and pay it off?
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I can guarantee you I did. After she took the car...
I'm saying before she took the car.
Before she took the car, we discussed that I would keep it.
Right. I'm saying before she took the car, did you tell her, my plan within the next week is to sell the car?
No, actually I didn't. We weren't on very good speaking terms at that point.
All she knew was her name was still on the loan.
That's correct.
You were driving the car.
Yes, I was.
And weren't paying for it.
That's correct.
If I were in Miss Jenkins' position, frustrated by a tumultuous circumstance, she gives you the car without a problem in September, even though, according to her, she had been making some payments on the car while you were driving it.
She was still driving it as well.
Not after September.
Yes, after September.
I drove the car twice, Your Honor, after September, and that was to take my children 2 places, at which time, I don't mind telling you, that my daughter found his new girlfriend's belongings inside the car.
Well,
and that's when I said...
That's not really necessary. In any event, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, Mr. Oswald, and your good intentions are falling on my deaf ears, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The right thing was...
Says ex-husband Michael Oswald owes for the balance on a 1995 BMW. Michael is countersuing, claiming Jennifer Lynn smashed his Palm Pilot and crashed his photo album.
Miss Jenkins, I want you to listen to me carefully. You can't do what you want to do with this car, resorting to self-help. See, when the bank sells a car, bank's not going to sell it for top dollar. They're not going to sell it for what you could have sold it if it was sold privately.
Right.
You chose not to do that. You said, I don't want this aggravation anymore. I'm giving him back the car, and then I'm going to go after him for the whole amount.
If I could just interject something, I actually held on to the car until the end of May, and I still had a civil relationship with Mr. Oswald, and I told him...
That's not a long time.
Well, it is to me, Your Honor. I have 3 children. I'm a single parent, and I'm making a car payment, and I had put it on my insurance policy.
Then what you should have
he
done...
wasn't taking care of it.
Then what you should have done was sold it instead of giving it back to the bank.
Which is exactly what I was trying to do.
Mr. Oswald, my friend,
yes,
my dear,
yes,
your excuses are falling on deaf ears. What you were doing is sticking her.
No.
I assume
no, it wasn't.
that, listen to me, Mr. Oswald, what you had discussed in September was going down to the bank and having the loan put in your name.
Yes.
And you couldn't do that because your credit's lousy.
At that point it was, yes.
Because over the years, you have demonstrated a certain amount of irresponsibility.
Some things just didn't work out, basically.
Better for her.
Apparently.
Apparently because it's good.
It doesn't take any credit other than street
Mr.
credit
Oswald, you got it.
I didn't steal my own car.
Don't speak to
I
me.
know, Your Honor.
Don't
speak to him. I'm sorry.
So do you understand, sir? So it would be very irritating for me supporting my 3 children and then having my credit placed at risk because my irresponsible, soon-to-be ex-husband didn't make car payments for 2 months and is working on getting it sold to a friend. So, Mr. Oswald, you're not off the hook, sir.
I understand.
But neither are you, Miss Jenkins, because you did also have alternatives. Yes, and your alternative was to sell it privately and perhaps recoup a little bit more money.
Yes, ma'am.
So how much were you going to sell this car to your friend, according to your statement? Just curious.
$8,500.
Well, Your Honor, that's more than we paid for it.
Just a second.
No, it's not.
Really?
It is.
Just a second.
Had I known that, I would have sold it.
Miss Jenkins, how much did you pay for the car?
The purchase price of the vehicle... Oh, I apologize, Your Honor. It was $92.76 after finance charges and interest and the whole 9 yards.
$92.76. And you had somebody, sir, that was going to pay you...
$85.
$85?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Your Honor...
I doubt it. And if you had somebody for $85 and you used the car for 18 months, I would have sold it to them quickly.
I tried.
I would have sold it to them very quickly.
Had I had possession of the car, I would have.
I would have sold it to them before she took the car, sir, when you missed the first payment.
Well, she was
Well, it's not
doing
an
that
answer,
too.
Mr. Oswald. You're not off the hook on this one, sir. Okay. You didn't do the right thing, and the right thing was not to place the credit of the mother of your children...
They're not my children.
The mother of your stepchildren at risk of destroying her credit.
She places them at risk herself, not me.
Mr. Oswald, you're not a pretty person.
No.
In any event, you have to lose a certain amount of what you're asking for. The price that the bank wants is $47.70.
That's right. That's the remainder of our original loan.
And I believe that your self-help has to be in some way punished by the justice system because the judgment of divorce did give him the car. Right. I can understand you resorting to self-help because he actually breached that agreement by not making the last 2 monthly payments. And it's clear to me that from September until April, he had the responsibility for having this loan put in his name. He chose not to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
He could have asked his mother, his father, got a second job, got a third job, done whatever he could do.
He had a first job.
Or get a first whatever. Whatever, in order to have this property taken care of. And he chose not to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's going to cost him $3,500. Okay, now let's get to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for a piece of electrical equipment that Ms. Jenkins allegedly broke when she was having an altercation with you, as well as harassment. Say she's been harassing you by sending some sort of subscriptions in the name of your new girlfriend to either your house or her house. So let's see what you have, Mr. Oswald. Take your hand out of your pocket and then tell me what she broke and when.
This is my PDA,
yes,
which was left in the car, along with many of my other possessions. And we communicated the fact that we needed to exchange certain items of possession, and we agreed to meet on a Saturday, not at my house, at a neutral site at 11:30 or so. She took it upon herself to come by my house instead at, say, 9:30 in the morning. This was April 9th, to be exact. She proceeded to ring the doorbell, and I refused to answer the door because it wasn't our agreement. My agreement with her was that we would meet at a neutral site. Take my Palm Pilot and other articles of my possessions and slam them up against my front door, damaging my antique front door, which I had just had refinished. And she destroyed my photo album containing photos, which I have pictures of all these things.
How did she get to your photos? Were they in the car?
All these things were in my car. And when she took the car, they were in
photo album?
A photo album, yes.
I'd like to see the Palm Pilot and the photos, please. Okay, Ms. Jenkins, let's go to April 9th.
Yes, ma'am. What he said was partially correct. We did have arrangements to meet at another location. However, I just thought I would save him the trip, and he told me that his girlfriend wasn't living there and he wasn't seeing her anymore. So quite honestly, we had a civil relationship. I didn't see anything wrong with going by the house. I had been by there several times since I had moved out to pick things up, et cetera, et cetera. So I went over there and I approached the front door and I noticed her car. And so I just said, basically, I'm just going to give him his stuff back, whatever. I didn't go over there to fight. So I knocked on the door and I could hear him behind the door. And I said, come on, Mike, just open the door. I didn't come over here to fight with you. And he was what I felt like baiting me, and I was furious. So I went to my car, and I can tell you exactly what was in the car. It was a pair of gloves, a pair of topsiders, a card from his girlfriend, a photo album, which he gave me as a gift and then put his photos in it, and then the Palm Pilot. Well, I scooped everything up with the exception of the Palm Pilot because I was furious, and I just didn't see it sitting there on the seat. Went to the front door, and I said, here's all of your crap. Only I used another word. And I took the photo album, and I did tear the pages out of it. I didn't destroy the photos, and I just threw it on the ground. I threw the gloves, I threw the shoes, and then I went and got in my car. As I went around the block, I noticed that the Palm Pilot slid over next to me. I paid for that Palm Pilot.
I don't care whether you paid for it or not.
Okay.
Did you break it?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I took
okay.
it, and I went like this
How
on
much
the
did
stair,
it
threw it on the porch.
How much did you pay for the Palm Pilot?
I paid $149 Palm Pilot.
Now, the photographs, were they all ripped?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That was a nasty thing that you did.
Yes, ma'am, I was
nasty,
furious.
Nasty? Okay.
I wasn't the only one with nasty behavior.
She shouldn't have done it. You're absolutely right, Mr. Oswald. She shouldn't have done it, and you have to be compensated for your Palm Pilot. And a little bit extra for the photographs.
I also, that Palm Pilot that was purchased was a floor model, so it was less expensive than as if it wasn't.
Find a floor model.
Well, they don't sell that one anymore.
Listen to me. Go hunting for a floor model.
I shouldn't have to be inconvenienced like that.
That makes two of us.
Shh. No. Why are you answering him?
I'm sorry. It's just infuriating.
Now, can we get to the harassment part of your complaint, Mr. Oswald?
Among other things, my front door was notched, and there are also pictures in that.
Get over it. I asked you about harassment.
Okay, well, that's part of my harassment.
I'm finished with April 9th, Mr. Oswald.
Okay. As the months ensued, Jennifer Lynn found out that my girlfriend had moved in. And over the next few months, we received dozens of magazine subscriptions from an anonymous source with labels printed out on the subscription tabs with my girlfriend's first name and my last name. And we got so many of them that we actually filed a federal complaint. I actually had to basically burn a bridge with her employer to go over to her house and say, hey, Jennifer Lynn is using her computer at work to print these things out. And that's the only thing that stopped them from continuing. And I actually have all of those here.
All right, Miss Jenkins.
Are you asking me if I did that? No.
Well, I'm asking you, there is nothing in that file.
Oh, okay.
Listen, I want you to put on your listening ears.
I'm listening.
There is nothing in that file that points to the person, although it's probably a pretty good guess. But there's nothing in that file to the plaintiff as the source of those irritating magazine subscriptions. My question to you was, do you have any proof, because you said you went to her employer and told her employer that the computer at work was used to order these things. And what I'm asking you is, do you have any proof of that, not what you want me to assume?
I have only two things to say about that. First, after I went to her employer's house, it stopped. Second, in an email that she sent to my girlfriend, which was very hateful, she said, I am not sure what the magazine thing is about, but I had nothing to do with it. Again, I don't really care if you don't believe me or not. I won't lose any sleep over it. And by the by, myself and your parents are not the only ones who know your name or Mike's last name. That's a fact. There are people that care about me and my children that didn't like the way Mike brought this down. Another fact.
Well, Mr. Oswald, that's a denial. She says, I don't know who did it. There are other people who know your girlfriend's first name and your family. Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Oswald. What you just read to me was not a confession. If anything, she says, I don't know who did it, I didn't. So you have no proof of the harassment. You do have proof that she destroyed your palm, for which you will be given credit on your counterclaim. You will also be given credit for the destroyed photo album and some compensation for the photos that you lost. My original judgment in the plaintiff's favor was $3,500. I am reducing that by $300 to $3,200. I am therefore dismissing the remainder of your counterclaim and awarding the plaintiff $3,200 on her claim.
Billings versus Wood. Step forward, please.
Christy Billings is suing her former employer, bar owner Chuck Wood, for unpaid wages and defamation of character. Chuck says because of Christy, he had to change the locks.
Miss Billings, you worked as a waitress in a bar that the defendant now owns.
Yes.
You worked in that bar for 9 years, according to you. How long have you owned the bar?
A little over a year.
So you inherited Miss Billings when you bought it?
No. Last owner fired her, and we hired her back.
How long had it been between the last time she worked in the bar and the time you hired her?
9 months.
All right. This is what the lawsuit is about. The lawsuit is about your claim that he owes you for wages after he fired you, and some sort of nonsense about defamation of character. Well, you tell me the story, I'm going to make short shrift of the defamation of character. Mr. Wood said he would have paid you your salary the days that he owed you, except that he told you to bring the keys back. And you didn't bring the keys back right away, so he had to have the locks changed. And therefore, since he had to have the locks changed and spent money on that, you don't get your wages, right?
That's correct.
All right, let's do this very quickly, Miss Billings. What happened that caused him to fire you or for you to quit?
On January the 21st, myself and my boyfriend came into his bar to have a drink. I was off duty. We were sitting there talking, and I was joking around, and I said, how about a raise? And he said, how about that? And I just started saying how I do a lot of stuff around here, which we had already talked about, and that he doesn't appreciate me and everything else. And he started getting upset with me at the stool and started pointing his finger in my face. He said, you ain't nothing but a effing. And then after he called me he stood up and said, dude, chill out or whatever. And he said, why don't you do your job and get her the F out of here? So then we left. So then on Monday morning, he called me after 10 because I was supposed to be there at 10. He said, are you coming into work? And I said, I assumed I was fired. He said, I never fired you. I said, well, I'm not going to stay there until you find somebody else who can fire me. I said, I'll be there on Friday to get my check and to give you the keys. He said, okay. Monday afternoon, he called me back and he said, I need the keys today. I said, okay, I'll give you the keys today if you give me my check today.
All right, now battle lines are drawn. Why didn't you give her her check?
Has to go through the accountant first.
How much did you owe her?
Roughly got it here. After taxes and everything we're due with $109.
Should have taken the $109 out of your pocket and given it to her, Mr. Wood.
I didn't know offhand how much it was after taxes.
You should have found out, Mr. Wood. That's your problem. You said to her, Jova, turn in your keys. I want your keys today. And she says, I'll come in and I'll turn in my keys. Just give me the $100 that you owe me. And he said, no, you're going to give me your keys. You come back again on Friday to get your $100. That's power. You're playing a power game with her head. That's wrong, sir.
I don't know how much power it is, but...
Well, you were trying to be the boss. You will come in and return the keys, and I will give you your money on Friday. You will come back again. How far do you live from where he is? Not far.
10 minutes.
You'll make that trip again on Friday, and on Friday, maybe I'll have your check, maybe I won't.
No,
but you'll
no.
come back again on Friday. Well, Mr. Wood, how much did it cost you to change the locks?
About $64.
That's your problem. Because if you had given her money, you didn't have to change the locks. She would have given you the keys. Right?
I disagree, but...
I don't care whether you agree or not. You were playing macho. Here, I get a chance to play macho. You're $109. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $109. That's all.
Why is that excuse? You may step out.
Just call it wrong, I think.
I'm happy with her judgment.
She was pretty lit. She was hammered.
He's full of...
On in, maybe seated.
Miss Peoples, defendant, before you moved in with her?
Yes.
For how long?
For approximately 8 years, maybe.
I saw that you were friendly with one of the two sisters, but it was the defendant. Is this your sister?
No, ma'am.
Who is this? Is this the third roommate?
It's my friend.
Is that the third roommate?
No, ma'am.
Who was the third roommate?
We don't have a third roommate.
Did you have a third roommate?
It's her sister.
Sorry, I didn't understand you.
There were 3 of you living in an apartment. You took an apartment. You, your sister, and the plaintiff.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
You weren't on the lease.
No.
You were on the lease.
No, ma'am.
Who was on the lease?
My sister.
It is your claim that after a short period of time as roommate with your former friend and her sister, they threw you out and destroyed some of your property.
Yes.
You want to be compensated for that property. When did you move in with them, Miss Peoples?
January 1st.
You moved in with a child?
Yes.
How old is your child?
1.5 years.
Where had you been living before?
I was staying with an uncle, and I ended up having some problems with my family, and he actually put me out, and so that's why we made the agreement to help each other and get an apartment together.
Why did your family put you out?
Me and my uncle had a crazy agreement on rent, and I was in between jobs. I had switched jobs, and I had a short week, and he ended up putting me out because I was 1 day late paying him, actually.
I have a feeling there's probably more to that story.
It's more personal than anything.
But I have a sense it's probably more than that story, because what kind of a person puts you out with a child? Put you out with your child?
He actually was really like a proud person. We had an agreement. He wanted me to pay him $100 and something every week,
But
every
he put
Friday.
you out with the child. Where do you live? In what state?
Texas.
Well, it's cold in January in Texas.
Sometimes.
Anyway, you moved in January 1st, 2006. When did you move out?
It was the last week of February, I believe.
Tell me what happened when you moved out.
We had an argument, and she said...
You and Miss Fernandez?
Yes, me and Erin had an argument. She ended up saying some things that I felt offended me about my son, and so I ended up screaming at her, and she said, well, you can just get out. And at first I didn't think she was serious. A couple days later, I came back because I didn't...
So she told you to get out, and you did?
Yes, but I didn't take anything with me.
Where did you go?
I was staying with one of my aunts.
And you took your child with you?
Yes. A couple days later, I came back to get some of my things, and the locks were changed. So I was kicking on the door, trying to get them to open it, because I figured somebody was there. The cops ended up being called, and they told me I wasn't allowed back on the property without an escort. So a few days after that, I believe it was March 4th, I came back with a police escort. Me and her sister had talked over the phone about it already. She said it was fine for me to come pack my things and go. So I came back that night to get my things, and everything was on the porch.
Yes?
I just took everything that was on the porch and went home, and I noticed more and more things were gone as I started going through it.
What was gone?
Almost everything valuable I owned. They stole shoes, clothes. They poured salt water in the back of my computer. I have pictures of that. And
well, that's the thing that I'm interested in, because I can't go through your old clothes and your shoes.
They took all my valuable items. I had an iPod, a camera.
Where'd you get all these things?
Over the past year, I was working, and I never really had anything nice growing up, so every paycheck I got, I took it to buy me and my son things. And
your son, who's a year old, doesn't need an iPod or a camera.
Well, I bought him a whole lot of toys, and they took all of his toys.
Well, I'm talking about the iPod, the camera, and the computer. Did you pay rent while you were there?
Yes.
How much rent did you pay?
Our rent was like $380, and I just paid half of it and half of the electricity bill.
Did she pay rent?
She did. She did not pay half of the electricity bill.
Did you take any of her property?
No, ma'am.
She says that somebody damaged her computer. You have a photograph of that?
I have a photograph, and I have an estimate.
I'd like to see the photograph report, please.
Ma'am, to my knowledge, her computer never even worked. I did not pour any water, salt water, on that computer.
You can still see chunks of salt in the back of it.
That was not from me.
I just bought the computer 6 months ago.
You have the bill for this computer?
Every receipt that I had, the warranty I had on the computer, all my receipts for everything that was bought was in the apartment in a box. And they gave me that box back with purses in it. They emptied it out.
You got a sad story about a lot of things. Well, so far I see a damaged computer.
I actually have a conversation where me and her were talking online, and she basically admits to taking some of my things.
I'd like to see it.
Ma'am, I do not even have access to the internet. We do not have a computer at my house, and if you look at the punctuation on there, my 16-year-old cousin has my name, and she goes on the internet under my name.
This conversation happened the same night that a cop went to her apartment and asked her questions. As soon as I filed the report and I went home, she was online talking back, and I guess she was mad that a cop was sent to her house.
I don't have access to the internet.
Quiet. What were you angry her about, Ms. Fernandez?
What did we get in a fight about for me to kick her out?
Yes.
I had hooked her up with one of my friends.
Could you keep your voice up? You know, I'm getting older.
I had set her up with one of my friends. The next morning, she was taking him home. She had wanted me to babysit her son. I said, no, I can't do that. I had 2 other kids. And I was like, I can't do that, but you can throw him in the car seat with you and take him. She got upset, and she was like, okay, fine, don't ask me to watch the kids while you go tan. I was like, all right. Well, she left to take that guy home and started sending me text messages through the phone. And she said, I'm fixing to take your life, and you can read them on my phone. They're terroristic threats. And I was like, okay, you have 30 days to get out. She said, kick me out for real, see what happens. Okay, you have 10 days to get out. She kept sending the text messages, so I changed the locks on the door.
And this was on what date?
2/21.
Well, you can't do that, Ms. Fernandez.
Can't do what?
Change the locks on the apartment. She's a tenant. She paid her rent for February.
She said she's going to take my life.
Listen to me. Yeah, then you can call the police. You can call the police, but you can't change the locks.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There's no question in my mind.
Claims former friend Erin Fernandez owes for damaging her computer and disposing of her belongings.
Keep going.
Well, my sister told her whenever she wanted to come pick her.
Don't tell me what your sister told her. That's hearsay. You just told me you changed the locks. Mm-hmm. You cannot do that. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, I also say that you did not have this conversation with her. I believe you. Put your hand down. I believe you did have this conversation with her.
I don't even know what that says.
No. Well, I'm going to show you.
If I could say something, I can vouch for her about that.
Sure. Who are you?
I'm Courtney Ragusa. I was a witness. I wasn't over there whenever she lived there, but I came to the house after she was kicked out. I've been with Erin ever since, and she was right. She does not have any access to a computer that was not her. We've talked to her cousin. Her cousin said that was her.
Listen to me.
Yes.
That's hearsay.
I know that's all I can give you. I can tell you that it was not her.
Sweetheart.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't talk when I'm talking. The fact that you tell me somebody else said something is hearsay. If her cousin was here, I would take her testimony with regard to whether or not it was she who was responsible for this or whether she typed it and she dictated it. That I don't know. But there's no question in my mind that this conversation, the thoughts involving this conversation emanated from her brain. And whether her 16-year-old cousin typed it at her direction or not, I don't know that, and neither do you. So you may have a seat.
If I did something like...
Quickly. Now, so there's no question in my mind that the thoughts in here are yours.
Ma'am, if I did something like that, I'm not going to admit it. I'm not going to admit it on computer to her. I'm not going to have a conversation with her I don't even know what that says, but I'm not going to have a conversation with her telling her, you know, whatever that says. What does it say?
So what was the whole point of breaking my computer? Because I wanted to. And do you really feel comfortable having to steal somebody's clothes to look cute? Losers. Are you going to pay me for what you stole? Like I told you, your stuff was on the porch for 2 days and you never came and got it, so I thought you didn't want it, so I kept it. You never blank told me it was on the porch. It's sad that you have to steal toys from a baby. Why do I need baby toys? You tell me. This is a conversation that you had with her. Okay. You have a bill for the camera?
I don't have any of my receipts with me. I had a box of receipts in the apartment that I didn't receive back. I basically got the leftovers. After they picked through all my stuff and took what they wanted, I just got what was left. And
you look cute for leftovers.
Did you say something?
I did.
Oh, then you can step out. Quickly. Quickly. Like we have afterburners on. When was the last time you were employed, Miss Peoples?
It was the first week in February.
What were you doing?
I was a waitress.
And how long did you work as a waitress?
A few months.
How much were you earning as a waitress?
I averaged maybe a couple $100 a week.
Where'd you get money for a camera, an iPod, and a computer?
I worked at Dillard's for last year, January through November.
So you bought these things at Dillard's?
Yes. Well, I didn't buy all the things at Dillard's, but...
Did you buy the iPod at Dillard's?
No.
Where did you buy the iPod?
Radio Shack.
And the camera?
The camera was actually a gift to me when I lived in Tennessee a couple years ago. I didn't pay for that.
And the computer?
The computer I bought with my money because I started going to school.
When?
August. when the school semester started.
Where did you buy the computer?
Walmart.
Well, you know that you can get a copy of the receipt from Walmart.
I didn't know that.
Sure you can. In any event, I do believe that Ms. Fernandez she didn't destroy your computer. It's going to cost $173 to have it fixed. I do believe, however, that she took some of your property. I don't know all the property that she took.
I have a list.
Well, I know that you have a list. I don't trust your list.
Okay.
How's that? If you spend $5,000 on stuff for yourself.
A few hundred was for toys for my son. He had some nice toys.
So $4,800 on junk for yourself.
A lot of it were gifts also from my boyfriend.
You had no right to change the locks on the apartment. She was a tenant. She was a tenant in good standing. She had paid her rent for the month of February. You had no right to illegally evict her. When you did so, you had not only the obligation, but the statutory obligation to safeguard her property and not throw it out on the front porch. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
Vâng, xin chào tất cả các bạn. Các bạn thân mến, bài học của chúng ta ngày hôm nay, chúng mình cùng tiếp tục với đơn vị đo độ dài là khoảng cách là km. Và để tiếp tục với nội dung đó, chúng ta sẽ vào bài luyện hoạt động số 2. Với phần hoạt động số 2 này, các bạn hãy quan sát mẫu điền vào dấu hỏi chấm. Ở đây chúng ta có mẫu là 4 km cộng 3 km bằng 7 km, 25 km trừ 10 km bằng 15 km. Vậy thì ngay sau đây mình sẽ hướng dẫn cụ thể các bạn như sau. 4 km cộng 3 km và bằng 7 km. Các bạn thân mến, cách thực hiện phép tính mà có đơn vị đo độ dài chúng ta sẽ thực hiện tương tự như các phép tính với đơn vị đo độ dài cm, decimet và mét. Chúng ta sẽ giữ nguyên đơn vị đo độ dài và thực hiện phép tính bình thường. 4 cộng 3 bằng 7, viết 7. Tương tự 25 km trừ 10 km và bằng 15 km. Chúng ta cũng giữ nguyên đơn vị là km. Sau đó chúng ta lấy 25 trừ 10 và bằng 15 km. Tương tự với phép mẫu như vậy, vừa rồi mình đã hướng dẫn các bạn, thì chúng ta sẽ thực hiện hai phép tính, đó là 8 km cộng 9 km và bằng 32 km trừ 14 km và bằng. Ở đây các bạn sẽ thực hiện đó là giữ nguyên đơn vị là km. Sau đó chúng ta lấy 8 cộng 9 bằng 17 km. Vậy là chúng ta thấy 8 km cộng 9 km bằng 17 km. Tiếp tục 32 km trừ 14 km, ta cũng sẽ giữ nguyên đơn vị đo độ dài. 32 trừ 14 thì bằng 28. Vậy chúng ta đã thực hiện được các phép tính có chứa đơn vị đo độ dài. Bài học của chúng ta đến đây là hết rồi. Các bạn đừng quên like video và đăng ký kênh nhé. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn.